This is where MAGA comes to talk. I'm at the radio station early, streaming here, setting up. I got to set up everything, which takes a while. First thing I got to do is turn the phones, switch the phones on to this studio. Welcome. Oh yeah, we got a lot to cover on the program today, no doubt about that. Okay. Welcome everyone. I'm just making sure I have the phones switched on to here. And they are. Cool. Welcome, everyone. There's a lot to set up when I do the show from the radio station. I usually have a chair over here that I use as a desk, but the chair's gone. Someone took my chair, my extra chair. Not that I sit in any of the chairs, but it's nice to have anyway. I live stream with my Mac when I'm here. It's not connecting to the internet. That's not good. Here we go. Finally got the internet. Why would you say that, Slain with combos? He's the greatest president this country has had, quite possibly ever. I don't understand why you would say something like that. It makes absolutely no sense. All right. Welcome, Nicole. Hello there. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. So I did a stream on the way up. And I talked about what I'm going to lead with today. What I'm going to start with today is I'm going to play a couple of clips. I've got 2 or 3 clips from the Bret Baier interview with Kash Patel, and there's 2 in particular I want to focus on. Test 1, 2.
I will take a look at it.
Okay. Setting up the camera for the other feed, and it's kind of catching this camera, so I gotta move it a little bit. Okay. One, two, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2.
January 6th, and whether or not there were FBI sources, not agent sources, on the ground during January.
That's the one I'm going to start with. Okay. All right, so I got everything set up. A little early today, too. Yeah, I came in a little early. Well, on the way, I went to the, I didn't want to say on the stream until I was there. I went to the Starbucks that I went to about 3 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I forgot to take off this hat, and the girl was freaking out. So I went, that saves me like 20 minutes in the morning if I go to that one when I come to the radio station. And the, it was kind of funny because I figured she wouldn't remember me. It's been 2 or 3 weeks. You know, all she was looking at was this, you know, so how many customers come in. And I got a better, she was the one, she freaked out. I walked in, I had this hat on. She was shaking. You would have think I came in there and was sticking the place up. And she gave me the wrong coffee. It was cold. I mean, it was a mess. I talked about it at the time on the stream. And I figured, she's not going to remember me. And she didn't. And the coffee's fine. But I got a better look at her because she wasn't freaking out. She has a nose ring. She's got tattoos all over her neck. Her hair was, I don't remember if it was blue or green, but it was not normal colored. I don't know what you describe that kind of person as. She obviously has to get a little tougher. Angelino, welcome, Angelino. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, I'm at the radio station today. I have some things I got to do here after the show. Yeah, I don't have any tattoos. When I was turning 30, I was going to get a tattoo, and my wife even took me to the tattoo place, but I chickened out. It's not the pain that I'm worried about. It's just it's too primitive of a decision to mark up my body like that with a tattoo. You know what I mean? Exactly. I was at Starbucks the other day. They got this guy. They got this one Starbucks I go to. The one I go to. Well, I don't want to say which one, but one of the Starbucks I go to. Whoever does the hiring is a tattoo freak, and they only hire people with tattoos. And there was a guy in there that's new, and he had this bandage on the side of his face. It was very strange. It was I've never seen anything like this bandage. I don't know quite how to describe it. And I thought, well, maybe he's got a burn or something. Then I go back a couple days later, he got a tattoo on his face. Like all over the side of his face. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Young guy. And then they got a girl that works there. I was telling my wife about this. This one's really tough. She's got a tattoo on her, big tattoos on her neck. And every time I go in there, well, if it's too high for a radio guy, I've been doing it for 35 years, so. She's got these tattoos on her neck, and I was telling my wife, I said, when I go in there, I can't look at her. I always look down or away because I feel like I'm being strangled. I get this feeling of being strangled every time I see the neck tattoos. And this guy with the one on his face, I mean, my goodness. That's crazy. Crazy, crazy. I saw tattoos are too permanent of a decision for me. I don't know if I'm probably one of the few people who feel that way, but plus you get a tattoo, you know, your interests change as you get older. Right? I mean, you know, come on. I want, although a lot of, do any of you do this? You'll watch a movie online on streaming and you fast forward through it. You know, and by the way, this is a shirt that I bought like 4 years ago. It didn't fit me anymore. I've lost all this weight and it fits perfect. In fact, the last time I wore it, I couldn't tuck it in. It was too tight, and I tucked it in. This thing they're trying to get going with Taco is crazy. Maybe I should pull that up. Let me pull that up to play. Thanks for reminding me. I wasn't going to play that, but they're trying to get a thing going. A reporter asked him about it. No, it's not a very good audio of it. Yeah. Thanks for mentioning it. I'm happy to play it. They're trying to get something going here. It's so bizarre.
Analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out.
Give me a freaking break. They're so, yeah. I'll start with that, then I'll get into Kash Patel. Oh my goodness. But what was I talking about? We're talking about tattoos. What was I telling you guys about? I talked about lost weight. It wasn't about being able to fit into the taco Trump. No. That's what got me off of what I was thinking about. Who's more poor, Canada or Mexico? That's a good question. I mean, they may be kind of equal in their national wealth. Who knows? If you factor in the drug trade in Mexico. No, it wasn't Taco Trump. I'm going to talk about that when the show starts. I'm going to open with Taco Trump. Thanks for reminding me. I forgot to cue that up. I heard that for the first time during the press conference yesterday. So freaking bizarre. Senator Kennedy's awesome. He's awesome. I don't know. They're trying to get this thing going with Taco. It's so bizarre, you know. They keep trying to get these narratives going. Who started that? Was it MSNBC? Yeah, Senator Kennedy's very funny. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. If yeah, I'm at the radio studio. I'll be live on the air in about 15 minutes. And you'll be able to call me live on the air. The number is pinned in the live chat. It's not funny. You know, for a joke to be funny, I know a little bit about humor and comedy. For something to be funny, there has to be some truth to it, right? If there's no truth to it, there's nothing funny about it. That's one of the rules of comedy. Well, you know, I tell people this when they talk about the world. In America, we don't give a shit what people think around the world about our country or our president. We just don't care. You care about us because you're from some insignificant country. Kennedy's hilarious. ETW, welcome, welcome. Yeah, I started streaming a little early today. I told you, T1, in America, Americans don't care what the world thinks about us at all, or our country, or our president. What pathetic country are you from? I mean, you know, we just don't care. And it's hard for people in other countries to understand, but it's the way it is. I did find something about Canada that I like. My wife and I, we've been watching Corner Gas. We've been binging it. We've watched the whole series. It's a Canadian sitcom. It's pretty funny. Watched the whole series. We're watching it again, right in a row, and it's pretty funny. So I found something in Canada I like. Corner Gas, yeah. But other than that, you know, it's about a 20-year-old sitcom out of Canada, and it is it was the first sitcom to be #1 over American shows on Canadian television, network television, which is kind of sad. Uh-oh, Mike called me. He must be running late. It's a good thing I'm at the radio station today. He called, but I have my phone on Do Not Disturb, so I just texted him back. If I'm at the radio station and he's running late, I can start the show. All right. There's an accident on the turnpike. He'll be about 10 minutes late. Since I'm here, I can start the show. Okay. I think that'll do it. There's so many. What is the mouse for that? Let's see. Okay. It's a good thing I'm at the radio station today, or we'd be late getting on the air. I haven't started on my own here for a while, but I think I got everything going. Okay, we're good to go. Welcome, everyone. Again, make sure you subscribe if you are new. I'll be right back. All right, we'll be live in about 10 minutes on the air. I don't. It's really. I want to start with this taco nonsense. Okay, it cracks me up that they're trying to get a narrative going. You know. And you don't want to duel with Trump. Trump's the one into branding and nicknames. I don't want to tell you exactly what it was because it would cause problems. There was someone was there was someone who was trying to give me a nickname, and this story won't do itself justice because I'm not going to tell you what the names and stuff. But they were trying because they'll have a freak out. They were trying to give me a nickname, and it was a caller, and they were trying to give me a nickname. And all the nicknames of the callers we've had over the years, Steve and I we come up with the nicknames for them. But this one caller was trying to give me a nickname, and it was so stupid. So they would call like every day, and they were trying to get a thing going where people didn't call me Brian, they called me this other thing. And it wasn't even funny, it was pathetic. And I gave them a nickname, I said it once, and they called Steve after the show and like wanted to stop the whole thing, and I wish I could tell you who it was and the nickname I gave them. It was hilarious. And I just did it once. I said it once in a lecture. And the reason that they were an amateur who was going up against a pro. And, when I'm talking to these liberal callers and everything, I go easy on them. They think that I'm like hardcore. I go easy on these people. I'm holding back, right? I don't want to, when you have skills like I do with that or Trump, you can just obliterate people with your words. And I hold back a lot. You'd be surprised. But this one guy with the nickname, I'm like, enough of this. Who's he think he is? And I gave him a nickname. I said it once, and he was begging to stop the whole thing, And so they're trying to start this taco, which is Trump always chickens out thing. They're trying to start this with Trump. They just had the guy. Let me pull this up. They just had that hostage who said Hamas was afraid of him, and Trump is the best at coming up with nicknames. Yeah, let me pull up the hostage that was being held by Hamas. I'm glad that troll mentioned the taco thing because I'd forgotten about it, and I may not have gotten to it today. And I'm looking. Did you guys? I put this on Twitter. Did you see the video of the woman at the airport with the emotional support kangaroo? Is that true?
You got
the emotional support kangaroo. Anybody see that video?
Before we felt like nothing is happening, And I remember for me, ever since he came into the role, they were very scared of him. Yeah, they wanted.
Okay. Yeah, I would have forgotten to do the taco thing. So thank you to the liberal troll for doing MAGA a favor today, so I could call it out. I wish I could tell you the caller that tried to give me a nickname that I obliterated, and tell you what I called them, but I can't do it. It would start another feud. Well, it's like I said, for something to be funny, there has to be truth to it. There has to be a sliver of truth for something to be funny. Like when Obama was president, I had a nickname for Obama. And it wasn't, does anyone remember? A lot of you were new. I had a nickname. I never called him President Obama. I called him something else. Does anyone know remember what I called Obama? It was a great nickname. Nope. It was a title. Barry? No. I used to call him Imam Obama. Imam Obama. That's right. Because there's truth to that. Remember he told George Stephanopoulos he was Muslim? Imam Obama. Yeah. No. That was a good nickname because there was truth to it. Oh, it's very clever, Raymond. Very clever. But there has to be truth to it. I'm not saying it wasn't laugh out loud, break your ribs funny, but it was a statement. It was a statement about him. It was a good nickname. So if there's no truth to it, there's no joke. Imam Obama, that was a good one. Oh, I've come up with some good ones. Like Al the John, who calls him. I came up with that. Al the John. Al, liberal. He always went by Liberal Al. And he called in. This was like, I don't know, several years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And he talked about how his brother-in-law hired a prostitute for him to have sex with. Now, my first response to him was, well, when you came, they were in Costa Rica. I said, when you came home from Costa Rica, did you tell your sister that her husband hires prostitutes? And I came up with and I just started calling him Al the John because he had told us he had sex with this prostitute in Costa Rica. That's funny, and because there's truth to it. If you just call somebody randomly that, it's not funny, right? Al the John. It's funny because he said that he had sex at least on one occasion with a prostitute, and then he ID'd that other prostitute in one of my live streams, once. So Al the John. That's a great name for him, and he got the 2 first name things going on. That's funny. I got a great nickname for Kamala Harris that I used during the last 4 years, right? You guys, what is my nickname? Do you guys know what's my nickname for Kamala Harris? When I say Kamala Harris's name, what's my nickname for her? Okay, it is 6. Willie Brown's girlfriend. Exactly. Willie Brown's girlfriend, Kamala Harris. That's my nickname for her. And it's funnier than all that heels up and stuff. Willie Brown's girlfriend. Because it makes a statement about who she is, what she did, what kind of person she is. And it's true. It's true. Those are funny nicknames. And I've come up with tons of them. I'm glad that troll reminded me about the taco. Willie Brown's girlfriend, Kamala Harris. Mike the Board Op. That's another nickname I came up for. Mike the Board Op. He's the Board Op. His name's Mike, and people know him as Mike the Board Op. He's like known in South Florida radio now. Mike the Board Op. Everybody will know who he is.
A service of the Palm Beach Kennel Club. BBKC is the ultimate destination for poker excitement. Check out May High Hands every 15 minutes, every day from 9 a.m. to midnight. A $15,000.
Oh, it's very good.
And a $100,000 progressive poker high.
These are all great nicknames. Let's see, where am I going to put this mic? No. Let's see. You got to put the mic in different spots with different shirts.
Attention, true oldies listeners. By popular demand, Sloman's is bringing back their unbeatable offer. How would you like to spring into the season with a free doorbell camera? Yes, you heard that right.
Okay, here we go. Welcome to the stream, everyone. My name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. We got a lot to cover today. We will take your calls. And I changed what I was going to lead with today because one of the liberal trolls in the chat room a little while ago reminded me of something. They thought they were insulting MAGA, but they actually were helping MAGA. All right, here we go. We are seconds away from being on the air. If you'd like to call in, the number is pinned in the live shot, but in the live chat. The live chat. All right, here we go.
It's the Steve Kane Show with.
All right, it sure is. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to Florida's longest running radio show. Indeed, it is the Steve Kane Show. On the radio since 1977, celebrating 48 years on the radio. And we're we got June's almost here. So we got June, July, 2 months from now. We're going to be approaching the 49th anniversary of the Steve Kane Radio Show, the longest running radio show in America. And I believe we are the longest running radio show in America with the same host. Not just Florida. But that's a little more difficult to track down. So we're going to just stick with Florida. But the 49th anniversary is coming up in August. All right, we've got a lot to cover, and coming up in just a bit, I'm going to go into, I've got 2 or 3 clips from the Bret Baier interview with Kash Patel yesterday. Did you guys see that? I'm going to go through that, and we're going to talk about that. And I was actually going to lead with that right at the top. And I was doing a live stream on YouTube about a half an hour before we went on the air. And one of the liberal lunatics in the chat room brought up something that I meant to bring up and had forgotten. It had slipped my mind on the drive up here to the radio station today. But they reminded me, and I'm glad they did, because it gives me a great opportunity to bring up something. Okay, now, did you guys watch the swearing-in ceremony of the great Judge Jogn yesterday in the Oval Office as the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia? That was pretty awesome. And yeah, I watched it, and it turned into, as these things do with President Trump, into a press conference. And it was a really good press conference. And one of the reporters asked something that I didn't understand and had not heard before, and it didn't look like the president had either, because, well, and it really tells you that the president and myself, neither of us watch MSNBC, because I believe this began on MSNBC from what I'm hearing, and it's about this taco thing. Have you heard this? Let me play you the exchange with the president in the Oval Office about this, and then we'll talk about this. This was the most bizarre thing, this taco thing. So this is the White House press conference. Judge Jogn is standing behind our favorite president, and he goes to the press. Listen. Okay, so, and I'll play his response. So the reporter said, analysts are referring to the taco trade. Trump always chickens out. And they're calling him a chicken. I mean, what is this? Back to the Future with Marty McFly? Are you a chicken, Marty? Ooh. I mean, who came up with this? Is Michael J. Fox advising the Dems now? And when I heard that, I didn't really hear what she said until he started answering. I had not heard this before. So I'll rewind it, and then I'll play the reporter and the president uninterrupted, okay? This is just bizarre stuff here. Hold on. I got to rewind it. Okay, here we go.
I kick out. I chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I said down to 100 and then down to another number, and I said you have to open up your whole country, and because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till June. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want. And we have an end date of July 9th. You call that chickening out? Because we have $14 trillion now invested, committed to investing when Biden didn't have practically anything. This country was dying. You know, we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. I went to Saudi Arabia. The king told me. He said, we have the hottest country in the world right now. 6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country people didn't think was going to survive, and you ask a nasty question like that. It's called negotiation. You set a number. And if you go down, you know, if I set a number at a ridiculous high number, and I go down a little bit, they want me to hold that number, 145% tariff. Even I said, man, that really got up. You know how it got? Because of fentanyl and many other things, and you added it up. I said, where are we now? We're at 145%. I said, whoa, that's high. That's high. They were doing no business whatsoever, and they were having a lot of problems. We were very nice to China. I don't know if they're going to be nice to us, but we were very nice to China. And in many ways, I think we really helped China tremendously because, you know, they were having great difficulty because we were basically going cold turkey with them.
Okay, so I don't need to play anymore. So they're trying to get this narrative going that Trump's a chicken with this taco thing. They're trying to give him a nickname. And they picked a bad day to do this. Not that there would ever be a good day to do this. The fake news, they're trying to get this taco thing going. Trump always chickens out. Because also yesterday, there was an interview with one of the Israeli hostages that was being held by the liberals' friends, the Hamas terrorist. And let me just play this, because this came out yesterday too. If you're on hold, hang in there. We'll get to the phones in a bit. This is one of the Israeli hostages talking about Hamas and Trump.
Yes, it seems we got now. We got the hostages out. Before we felt like nothing was happening, you know. And I remember for me, ever since he came into the road, they were very scared of him. Yeah, they wanted
Who?
terrorists.
We're afraid of Trump.
Yeah, they wanted Kamala to be chosen.
You
elected.
talked politics with him?
Yeah. They wanted Kamala to be elected. But as soon as Donald Trump was elected, they understood that he wants to bring the hostages back home. Yeah. So immediately the way they treated me changed. If it's the amount of food, I could say this, that when Trump became president, yeah, the way they treated us changed. For me, personally, this is what I
think
felt.
because they anticipated that a deal would come soon.
Yeah,
And that's when they started giving you more food.
exactly. More food, treated me better, you know, stopped cursing me, stopped spitting on me.
They were spitting in person.
Yeah.
Were they beating you?
No, never. I was never, except 7 October, I was never used physically. But I think it's because the way I managed around
The relationship.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's one of the Israeli hostages held by the worst of the worst, Hamas, and he said they were afraid of Trump and started treating him better as soon as Trump was elected. They wanted Kamala Harris to be elected. So they picked a bad day to try to get their taco thing going. And, you know, another thing about nicknames, I know a little bit about comedy, right? There's rules to, you just can't say something and it's funny. For something to be funny, there has to be at least some shred of truth to what's being said, right? And President Trump is the greatest when it comes to nicknames, right? Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas. That's fun. It's still funny, and it's stuck. So why is it funny? Because there's truth to it, because she's a fake Indian, and she committed fraud. Was her fraud at Harvard? She committed fraud claiming to be a Native American Indian, Pocahontas. It stuck because there's truth to it. And for them to try to duel with the brander and nicknamer-in-chief, Gavin Newscum. Newscum has stuck because he is scum. Go look at California, right? You know, there's got to be truth to it. You know, our chronic callers over the years to the program, I was talking to people in my YouTube live chat before the show about this because this came up. We were talking about this off the air. You know, all of the callers that have nicknames, Steve and I have given all the callers nicknames over the years. And I give you, and some of them are pretty clever and funny. I'll give you an example, okay? And if you notice, our stick, now one that's not insulting is Richie the bus driver. It's not that it's funny, but it's a nickname that sticks. I mean, people know him and call him Richie the bus driver because, and he was a bus driver. He drove the bus. I used to ride his bus when I was a kid. Al the John's another one. Al the John. Al the John was known as Liberal Al, calling this show for years. He's been calling the Steve Kane Show longer than I've been a part of it. And he was always known as Liberal Al. And I came up with his new nickname, Al the John. And for those that don't know, a few years back, Al called up. He was Liberal Al then. He called up and told this bizarre story on the air, talking to me and Steve. He had traveled to Costa Rica with his brother-in-law, and he told us this story of how his brother-in-law hired a prostitute for Al to have sex with. And my first immediate response to Al was, when you came back from, and he told us the whole story, he had sex with his prostitute that his brother-in-law paid for. And I said, when you got back home, did you tell your sister that her husband hires prostitutes? And then we started calling him Al the John. And Al the John is funny because he is a John, by his own admission, because he had sex with that prostitute. And there was another incident with a prostitute. I was live streaming on the way to work on, I don't know if it was YouTube or back when I was on Periscope. And I was getting gas, and this was like 4 a.m, and a prostitute came up to me and solicited me, tried to solicit me. And I showed this prostitute on the live stream, and Al the John knew who she was and knew where I was, even though I kept the location secret. He ID'd a prostitute. How do you know? Well, you know. So there's humor to that. So this thing of calling Trump Taco, Trump always chickens out. It's not funny, and it's not going to stick because there's no truth to it. Okay, like Pocahontas or Al the John. Okay, or Gavin Newscomb, and there's others. I mean, you know, we could sit here all day and go through nicknames. So it's just not going to last, and it's not going to work, and it's a joke, especially when you've got the Hamas hostage, the Israeli hostage, on the same day, and an Israeli interview, going global, talking about how Hamas started treating him better because they were afraid of Trump. So how can you call someone a chicken when Hamas is terrified of them? Yeah, you know, so it was just, you know, the media, they're desperate to get a narrative going. And they just can't get a narrative going. And you don't want to duel with a maestro like Trump. I wish I could tell you who this was and what the nicknames were. But it caused a big problem. There was one of our chronic callers, this was many years ago, tried to give me a nickname when they called. And it wasn't funny. They were trying to get everybody not to call me Brian, but call me something else. I'm not going to say what it was on the air, because I don't want to get this person back involved in my life because they're a toxic person. And they did this for a couple days. It wasn't funny, but what a lot of people don't realize, that these liberal callers, you know, these liberals that call up and give Steve a hard time or me a hard time, Steve and I go easy on all of them. We probably give them 20 to 25% of our full force power, okay, against these chronic callers. And this guy was trying to get callers to call me this nickname. And I didn't say anything about it. And then one of the other callers called me by the nickname. So I said, well, enough of this. So the next time the original guy called in, I gave him a nickname just off the top of my head right there. It was so good and I used, instead of the normal 25% of my abilities and talents with these liberal callers, I used about 75 or 80. The name was so clever, so accurate, and radio safe, and their ego was just evaporated. After the show, they called Steve up and asked him if we could stop this whole nickname business that they started. Just when I said it once, okay? Once. I'll tell Mike what it is during the break, okay? But, so if they're going to try to nickname Trump, they pick the wrong guy to duel with, okay? You're not going to win a nicknaming, labeling duel with Donald Trump. He is the master of it, the maestro, What's your favorite Trump nickname? Pocahontas? Gavin Newsom? And sadly, even little Marco still sticks. As much as we love Marco, Marco Rubio may be the next MAGA president or vice president, right? But we're going to call him little Marco forever. It'll probably follow him to his obituary and 80 years, right? I mean, that's how good Trump is at these nicknames. All right, if you're on hold, you hang in there. We've got a lot to cover. I am going to get to the Kash Patel interview with Bret Baier. There's a couple of things in particular that I want to cover in that. It's 19 minutes after the hour, Thursday morning. I'm Brian Craig. This is Florida's longest running radio show. Our number is toll free, 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. We'll be right back.
Don't sit on the sidelines. Get in on the action. Call the Steve Kane Show live on air now. 888-GO-KANE-1. This is the Steve Kane Show.
Low energy jab, yeah. The turtle.
Hey, it's Scott on the radio, reminding you that your favorite oldies are back on the air right after 10 a.m. this morning, right here on the True Oldies channel.
Do you suffer from neuropathy? I did, until I went to Lighthouse Medical Center in Pamela. Numbness, pain, burning, tingling in my hands and feet, muscle weakness, loss of balance, muscle twitching, and all but disappeared. Say goodbye to your neuropathy symptoms. Call Lighthouse Medical Center for a free consultation. 754-222-6642.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Brian. This is Donna from Jupiter. I'm calling to share my great experience with Jupiter Joe. My husband and I started listening to you a few years ago, and that's when we learned about Jupiter Joe Thomas. We're seniors with no pension and collect Social Security. All our investments were in stocks and IRAs until we heard about Jupiter Joe. Speaking of having your money work for you. So we got in touch with him, and he went above and beyond trying to locate all our diversifications. He answered all our questions clearly and returned every phone call. He recommended an annuity that enabled us to get a safe monthly income for life. So I just want to tell everyone, if you're in need of additional income, especially with the high cost of everything these days, please call Joe Thomas. It's no cost to you. He is so professional, knowledgeable, trustworthy, and you can put total confidence in him. My husband and I can't say enough good things about Jupiter Joe and his staff.
I want to thank you for your kind words for Jupiter Joe Thomas. If you want to call Joe Thomas, I'm going to give you his number. It's a no-charge consultation, which you can take advantage of no matter where you're located. 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999. And online at jupiterjoe.com.
Yeah, I think so. This is Joe Thomas from the Jupiter Joe Money Show. What if I told you there was a retirement strategy where your money wasn't all? I have guaranteed options to keep your money safe.
I told Mike the nicknames thing that I can't tell you on the air. I wish I could tell it on the air. Okay, hold on. Oh. Every shirt, you got to clip the mic on in a different spot.
I have many suppliers. Whatever car or truck you have, I get you incredible deals on any tire. I also do tire repairs at very low prices. Give me a call. My number is 954-977-9445. I will give you a price over the phone on new and used tires. Again, my number is 954-977-9445. Thank you.
Now, back to the Steve Kane Show with Brian Craig. Listen in the Palm Beaches on 95.9 FM, the Treasure Coast on 106.9 FM, here is in Boca on 95.3 FM, Fort Lauderdale on 96.9 FM, and anywhere in the world.
All right, I was just telling Mike, the board up, the nickname story. I can't tell you on the air with one of the callers. I wish I could tell that story, but the person is such a toxic person. I don't want them injected back into my life or the show. But anyway, welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. If you missed the first segment, you missed a lot. But you're welcome to call in about that if you'd like at 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. Toll free, no matter where you are listening. Okay. Kash Patel did another interview, and this one on Fox, and it was with Bret Baier. Did you guys watch it? And I want to say, I've been going after Bret Baier. This interview was good last night. I've been going after Kash Patel and Bongino for a couple weeks. All right, and I was very reluctant to even talk about this interview Kash Patel did last night because I've talked so much about Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and the disappointment that we all have. However, this investigation that Bongino announced into government corruption, into the cocaine story and the pipe bomber and the Supreme Court I was talking about yesterday, that's good. And I'm glad he's doing that. But there's still disappointment. And Kash Patel said in that Bartiromo interview, he says, give us a week or two, and we're going to have all this stuff. And Bret Baier in the interview actually said, it's been almost 2 weeks. What do you got for us? And he really didn't have a lot. And most of what he gave was a rehash of what the other interview was about. And I hope he comes through with stuff, okay? I really want him to come through with things. And I know I'm not alone with that. Everybody does. We all like Kash Patel. We all like Dan Bongino, but and Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi isn't as well known as everyone else, but we want to see some action. We want to see some handcuffs. We want to see some arrest. And there's that old, you ever heard that old saying, some people do and those who can't do teach, right? And there's a bunch of offshoots of that joke. We want doers, not people doing television interviews. It's best to just do it. And, one thing I've noticed with, and I took that first break really late, guys, so I'm going to play the audio of Kash Patel after the bottom of the hour break so I can get back on schedule here at the bottom of the hour. And I apologize for the short segment, guys. It is my fault. I went way too long in the first segment. But I wanted to get that taco stuff out. One thing I've noticed about millennials and Gen Z, all they do is make plans. They don't do anything. Do you have a Notion board, Mike? Yeah, are you millennial or Gen Z? I forgot. Millennial? Yeah. Oh, if you were Gen Z, you'd have a Notion board. And I was watching a YouTube video. This guy on YouTube I watch, and he's a young guy. He's Gen Z, was about something or other. And he was doing this video from his house, and he had his Notion board on the wall. And my daughter was home, and I said, "Look at this." I feel bad for the guy. He's got all this going. He's like, "Oh no, that's what we do. That's what guys do." And I kind of feel like that's what Bongino and Kash Patel are doing. Instead of telling us what you're going to do, just do it, and then come out and tell us what you did. Right? If you probably aren't even aware of this or even care, but I'll tell you. I never tell you. I might say when we get back from the break, I'm going to play the audio sound bites of Kash Patel from the Bret Baier interview. I'm going to do that after the break. But whatever I plan on doing in the future, I give you a great example. I just did those of you that listen to my podcast, I just did a big upgrade on my podcast. Where, my podcast is an audio it's on all podcast platforms, but I'm also doing it in video format, the same podcast. So if you watch me on YouTube, you can get the video version of my podcast, or you can listen to podcast players. And I didn't sit around and tell you, oh, hey, starting next Monday, the video, I did it. And then you saw it, right? And that's a minor thing, but I don't tell you what I'm going to do. I just do it and then tell you after. And there's a number of reasons for that. One of them is, well, what if I tell you I'm going to do something on Monday and something comes up and I can't do it? Or if I tell you in advance, it's anticlimactic, And Kash, Patel, and Dan Bongino are telling us too much about, keep waiting. No matter what they release, unless it's so huge, and unless it involves handcuffs on someone who's a household name, it's going to be disappointing. Stop telling us what you're going to do and just do something, right? That's it. And the people that are following this are people that are my age and older. We're doer generations, not the notion board generation. Just do something. Stop telling us that you're going to do something and something will be revealed. You're ticking people off is what you're doing. So anyway, let me take this break so we can be back on schedule, and then I've got 2 or 3 clips from Kash Patel's interview with Brett Baer last night, and I'm going to start with the most important of them. Okay, I would usually start with the least and work up, but I'm going to start with the most important one. Again, my apologies for the short segment. We'll take our break and be right back.
You're gonna really love it. It's the Steve Kane Show with Brian Craig.
It's got on the radio, reminding you that your favorite oldies are back on the air right after 10 a.m. this morning on the True Oldies channel.
Now, here's the True Oldies weather forecast.
This Thursday morning and throughout the day.
No, we don't want to give up California. California is beautiful. A lot of great resources, too. Why would we give up California? If California would have stayed with Mexico, it would be a third world pit of hell.
And now, a True Oldies traffic check. Brought to you by the Palm Beach Kennel Club.
It's only beautiful because we have it.
And an accident 10th Avenue North at North B Street. Spot something on the roads, call the traffic tip line, pound 250, keyword west on traffic. I'm Rob Mercy. Traffic, a service of the Palm Beach Kennel Club. BBKC is your entertainment destination with poker, OTB, table games, and exciting events. This Saturday, come out, watch, wager, and win on the second leg of the Triple Crown, the Preakness Stakes. Paddock is the perfect place to catch all the OTB and sports action. Over 140 HD TVs, delicious food, full bar, and friendly service. For more info, BBK.
Welcome, everyone. If you're new, make sure you subscribe.
Association and your roof is old or compromised, you need to call Tom Laporta at Laporta Roofing. Laporta Roofing has been in the roofing and construction business since 1984, with thousands of roof installations and thousands of satisfied customers. Did you know that in the state of Florida, you can open a roofing company and borrow someone else's license? Tom Laporta is the holder of his roofing and general contractor's licenses, not like the other companies that borrow other people's licenses.
Yeah, what are some of your favorite Trump nicknames that he's given people? Pocahontas is probably the one that's the most well-known. Gavin Newscomb, I like that. Governor Newscomb, that's a good one.
On all of its employees, not just a waiver like other contractors. Laporta Roofing can handle any type of roofing job too. Residential roofing, HOAs, condominiums, and churches. If it's roofing, Laporta Roofing can do it. So call Tom Laporta on his cell phone, 954-604-4602, or connect online at laportaroofing.com. That number again is 954-604-4602. Laporta Roofing, the go-to roofing company you can trust.
We're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Listen, Wayne, I just received my 7th and 8th set of Mike Lindell sheets. This time we got flannel ones, which we have never had. I got one for my husband for Christmas. He loves it. Oh, my God. And especially with the cold days and nights we've been having the last few months in Florida. I got 2 more. I send them to my friends for Christmas now, and they just love them. Absolutely love them.
Yeah, I have the flannels, too. You're like Goldilocks. They keep you the same temperature all night long.
Yes. So, perfect. The guy just has a great product.
The thing with Mike Lindell sheets, all of them, the fitted sheet at the bottom fits perfectly on the mattress. Every other sheet, you can't get the 4 corners on, and it's almost impossible. Even after having them for years and washing them, I don't know how many times, they still fit perfectly.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
You're probably going to be on the next My Pillow commercial, just so you know, okay? Okay, just to let you know.
You heard Lynn from Boynton. She loves her My Pillow sheets. Order yours right now at a huge discount. Use our promo code KANE, K-A-N-E, at checkout at mypillow.com.
38 years on the air.
All right, we're back. I'm Brian, Steve Kane Show. Okay, so let me get to this. Kash Patel did another interview with Bret Baier. I've got, I think, 3 clips, maybe just 2, maybe 3. I don't remember. But I'm going to start with the biggest one to me, although there's 2 that are very important. Well, let me just play it, and then we'll talk about it. This is last night, Kash Patel with Bret Baier on Fox.
People have had questions about January 6th and whether or not there were FBI sources, not agents, sources on the ground during January 6th. And I told you I would get you the definitive answer to that, and we have. And we are in the process, again, of working with our partners to divulge that information, and it is coming. And I will tell you this. The answer to that question will surprise and shock people because of what past FBI leaders have said about it.
Former FBI Director Chris Wray eventually admitted to Congress there were 26 FBI confidential human sources in and around the Capitol on January 6th, but not actual agents. Can you say that's true? Are there more than that? What you're learning from that?
I can say that that is definitely a piece of the truth. Why it took a ton of time for and questioning in Congress for the director to get that point is what I'm trying to eliminate from the FBI. If Congress asks you a question under oath, whether or not there were sources in around January 6th at the Capitol, you as the director of the FBI need to know that and not deflect and give a DC answer. You have to be prepared for that, and that's the answer we're giving. That's the answer Chris Wray should have given.
And eventually everybody's going to know the whole picture.
Yeah, because the American people deserve that. And look, no one's more frustrated than me. Remember, I was Chief of Staff of the Department of Defense on January 6th. We said that we were ready, and the President had previously authorized the National Guard to be there days in advance. I spent 2 years, a small fortune, grand juries, to testify to the truth. And what happens now, years later? We were right. Bowser and Pelosi rejected that offer, and instead of figuring out how to prevent security lapses like that ever again, the American public spent tens of millions of dollars and countless hours on TV listening to conspiracy theories because those in positions of leadership failed to tell the American public the truth.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about, there's one other clip that's important, and a third one is not as important, but that's the one I wanted to talk about in detail. That's why I took the break kind of on time, so we got time to talk about it before the next break. Coming out and telling us how many FBI assets were there is not important. I don't care if they tell us there were, Ray said there were 23, so let's say there's 223. Oh, wow, okay, I'm shocked. That's not what we want. And that information is not good to us. Let me give you an example to illustrate what we want. And I'm going to suggest something here. If anybody at Mar-a-Lago is listening down the street, Tucker Carlson would be a great January 6th czar, wouldn't he? To find out what happened on January 6th and spell it out to the people. Do you remember why he was fired from Fox News? Do you guys remember? Why was Tucker Carlson fired from Fox News? You know why he was fired? A lot of people kind of forget, and it's very specific. If you remember, the Republicans gave Tucker Carlson and his Fox News team all of the raw January 6th congressional surveillance videos. And there was a lot of hype to this. And Tucker was going, the plan is to have a 5-night event, right? Monday through Friday, and every night release shocking things they found. He showed something on the first night which was not his best. The way you do these things, I talked about this at the time. The way you do these things, you do it in beats. I'm doing it the opposite here. You know, usually like this Kash Patel interview, I have 3 clips. Usually I start with the least, because that's what you do, but it's a good one. Then you build up, and then the final one, you know. So on his first night, he didn't show the biggest. You show the biggest either the last night or the night before the last night. So Thursday or Friday. And the reason I say or the Thursday before the last night, because then the last night, they can analyze everything that was revealed during the week. And what did he show? And this is what got Tucker Carlson fired from Fox. And we never got to see the rest of the results of his investigation. When they gave Tucker those tapes from the Capitol, they didn't think he was going to find anything. And what did he find? The shaman, who I call the Viking because the hat looks kind of like a Viking hat, but the shaman, who was the face of J6 with the weird clothes and the the paint and no shirt on and walking into the Senate like he's taken over the government. What Tucker Carlson showed is how the Capitol Police went up to him and walked him around the Capitol and tried to find try to get him into the Senate chamber. They couldn't find an unlocked door. They tried several doors. They were with him. They found one unlocked door. They walked him in, and then the pool photographer was there ready to take the picture. Which did what? It showed that someone was watching on the surveillance camera and saw the shaman and said, wow, look at this guy. He's got Davy Crockett's pants on. He's got paint over his face and his naked chest, and he's got this headdress on. That's the photo. That's the face of this. So whoever was behind, the organizers, the real organizers of J6, somebody got on the phone, got on the radio, and got to those Capitol officers, boom, for the waiting pool photographer. And Tucker showed the surveillance videos of them going up to him, being nice, he was kind and polite, going up to doors, the police trying to open them, and it was locked. Capitol Police go to another door, it was locked. And then they found the one that wasn't, and they escorted him for the waiting pool photographer. That's what got Tucker fired from Fox. And we never saw the rest of what he uncovered with that footage. And what happened was the powers that be are like, holy smokes. Tucker got us on that. And by the way, the shaman got out of prison early because of that. So what else did he have? God only knows, but that wasn't the biggest thing he uncovered. So back to Kash Patel. And that's important for this, to illustrate the point I'm trying to make. For him to come out and tell us how many FBI informants and assets were there is meaningless. Ray said 23. So I say Kash comes out and says there were 223 FBI assets, not agents, but informants and other assets there. That means nothing. We need to do with those people what happened with the shaman. We've got all the footage. We need to find out who they are, how long have they worked for the feds, how they got there, and by the way, what they did, and follow them through the Capitol. That guy that broke the window and crawled through the window and opened the locked door from inside the Capitol and let everybody in, is he one of the FBI assets? You understand what I mean? But that's not what Kash Patel's talking about doing. He's talking about giving us a number, and that number is going to be shocking. The number is meaningless without context. Does that make sense to you guys? So, when he says that to Bret Baier, it just ticks me off again. It really ticks me off. The number is meaningless. We need to know who they were, how long they've been informants or assets, what other things have they been involved in. President Trump was talking about pardoning the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping people. Those guys were entrapped by the feds. Everybody knows this. Okay? That's what we need to know about these FBI assets. And if you need to hide their identities, that's cool. But still, how long have they been with the FBI? What other things were they involved in with the FBI other than J6? How did they become assets? What have they given to the FBI in the past? And what did they do at the Capitol on January 6th? Were they the instigators? I've had 2 incidents that I've talked about on the air where I know I saw feds undercover as MAGA. 3 times, actually. I told you about this one. On Inauguration Day, Biden's Inauguration Day, when President Trump came home I was with all the MAGA people in front of Mar-a-Lago, and there was a guy wearing MAGA gear head to toe. He even had MAGA socks on, and he was and there were 3, 4, 5 Biden people across the street. He was trying to get us to rush them, and everybody ran him off and said, "Fed, Fed, get out of here, Fed." I saw one of the Proud Boys. Guy was like 45, 50 years old. He was with a couple of Proud Boys. He had on a leather Proud Boys vest that had to cost $1,500, $2,000, this custom leather vest. He had like a military style haircut, no beer belly. And there was somebody else. How do you have so many guys with military haircuts with no beer bellies in their mid-40s and 50s? They're feds. There was another time I was up there, and there was another guy head to toe in MAGA gear. The wind blew. Again, this is a area under hardcore police protection because the president lives there and he's coming by. The wind blew. His shirt blew up. You know, so you could see he was heavily armed like a soldier. Okay, he not only had a holster with gun, he had magazines going around his waist. This was a few years ago, a couple years back. Can't remember exactly when. Another undercover Fed. So I've seen at least 3. There was a guy that I suspected of being a Fed that approached me. I don't know if I should be telling this stuff on the air. It's too late. It's out there. It's out there. I've told these stories before. I was somewhere, I don't want to say where, but I was somewhere making a YouTube video about the president. It was not a live stream on YouTube. I was recording a video. No one knew where I was except my wife. Listener pulls up in MAGA gear. Befriends me. They were very good. They did something that's very difficult to do. They got my phone number from me. I don't volunteer my phone number very often. Then they called me up. And there was something, they said, hey, there's this MAGA event that we want to promote. This was, well, I'll tell you when it was at the end, because it'll spoil this. They called me up and they said, there's this MAGA event at such and such a place here in South Florida. Can you promote this on the show tomorrow? And I didn't know anything about it. And I said, what's the occasion? They said, we're celebrating January 6th. This was the first January 6th after the January 6th. I said, what? You know, because back then was people, they were arresting people still. And I called Steve and I said, you're not going to, and Steve's Fed. Exactly. The guy was a Fed. Now, that doesn't mean he was an agent. Okay? And I have seen him since at events where there's MAGA people. I just haven't talked to him. That doesn't mean he's an agent, but he's an asset. If you're on hold, hang in there. I know there's been people calling all hour. I haven't been taking calls, but I got a lot going on to get off my chest here. So if Kash Patel gives us a number of FBI agents at January 6th or assets and informants, it is meaningless without context. Were they involved in the event and making happen what happened? And if so, how? And let's see them walk through. Blur them out if you got to protect their identity. That's fine for now. And could you tell us everything about Ray Epps too? All right. I'm so late on the breaks. I'm going to be in big trouble. All right, listen. We'll take a quick break and be back.
The cold, hard truth. Delivered morning 6 to 9 right here on The Steve Kane Show.
Hi, it's Brian Craig. Let me ask you this. Are you planning on retiring in the next 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, at any point in your life? Or
No, someone said answer the question. That's what the phones are for. If you got a question for me, pick up the phone and call me on the air. The toll-free number is in the chat. This is not a radio show where I talk to the chat room on the air. So if you got a question for me, you call in.
Guarantee your income and stop losing money. Joe Thomas is president of Retirement Network Advisors, South Florida's premier retirement experts, and has been for over 20 years. He's seen it all and is a true professional that you can trust. They're family owned and operated. His daughter Jenny works with him. You know Joe and Jenny from right here on True Oldies. He's the host of the Jupiter Joe Money Show, and he's been doing that for over a decade. You need Jupiter Joe's book, The Retirement Know-It-All. Mention my name, Brian Craig, and receive a free copy of his ebook. Go to jupiterjoe.com or call 561-743-0999. That's 561-743-0999.
I know a lot of people have been calling and I haven't gone to the phones, but I will. I'll start going to the phones. And I've got a couple more clips from Kash to play. But do you guys understand what I'm saying? The number of assets there is meaningless. We want to know what they did while they were there. That's what's important, right? Does that make sense to you guys?
Well, there's a lot of times you don't have to live with it. I've had great success with helping people. My testimonials are marvelous with patients. They love the treatment. There's no injections. There's no medication. There's no surgery. There's none of that. It's strictly either the laser, the acupuncture I do, or shockwave therapy I do. Open 6 days a week, come in for a week consultation, and be willing to look at you and help you.
Take advantage of that no-charge consultation with Dr. Appleton. Remember, appointments are not necessary and walk-ins are welcome even on Saturdays. 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. And online, AppletonCairo.com.
This is Steve Kane. I want to tell you about my favorite restaurant in all of South Florida, Wings Plus in Coral Springs. Wings just the way you like them. Plump, tender, and delicious. Crispy on the outside, succulent on the inside. Everything homemade, nothing comes out of a can. Dozens of specialty sauces that will make your mouth water. Wings Plus, located in Coral Springs, a mile west of University on the south side of Sample Road.
When you need lab work, don't waste hours and hours waiting at the doctor's office or one of those big labs. Go to any lab test now in Boca and any lab test now of Coral Springs. Their prices are guaranteed to be the lowest you'll find anywhere. No appointment, doctor's order, or prescription is needed, and you're in and out in 15 minutes or less. They offer every lab and blood work your doctor could order. They even have drug testing and STD testing. Take control of your health care and visit any lab test now of Boca and any lab test now of Coral Springs. There's lots of any lab test nows around, but those are the only two advertising on our radio station. So don't use the rest. Only go to any lab test now of Boca and any lab test now of Coral Springs. And make sure you tell them you heard about them on the radio.
We take on the social justice warriors for breakfast. Now the Steve Kane Show is...
All right, we're back. Calls on hold, stand by. Our number, 888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Mike from Louisiana.
Yes, Mike.
You know, I kind of disagree with you about these assets and these informants. Look, they deserve to have done to them what happened with the J6 people. The J6 people, basically, their lives were ruined. You know?
So you want to ruin people's lives. You want to destroy. All right, appreciate the call, Mike. Okay. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
They want to ruin people's lives.
You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Where are you calling from?
I hear myself once, twice. All right, you lost your chance. All right, now the next clip that I want to play. Sometimes it's best not to take calls, isn't it? But I will give Mike in Louisiana credit because somebody the other day said to me, "Why are you so rude to Mike from Louisiana?" I said, "He's a nice guy. I like Mike from Louisiana. But he's got nothing to say. All he does is repeat what I say when he calls in. You're absolutely right." And then he repeats what I said. And he tried to do something different today, but what he said was a stupid thing to say. Now here's the next clip of Kash Patel with, do I have time? Yeah, I have time. With Brett Baer last night that I wanted to talk about. This one's about Epstein.
go through years of investigations, years of political manipulation, and years of cover-up to get through nothing people can resolve. And that's what I'm going to do.
Okay. Now, here's the thing about Epstein. I don't believe that there's any files we're ever going to see that have anything in them, okay? And I tell you guys this a lot. Criminals don't document their crimes and their criminal conspiracies and then put them in filing cabinets for people in the future to jam them up with, okay? I mean, look, we've been waiting 60 years for the Kennedy files. We got them all. What's the big revelation that came out? Nothing, right? Kennedy was killed by the same people that shot Trump and Butler. He was killed so they could make Lyndon Johnson president and amp up the Vietnam War. So the military-industrial complex would... But they didn't document it and put it in filing cabinets, okay? And I've had the same expectation for Epstein. However, there's some things here that Kash Patel is leaving out. One, let's say he really did do that to himself. How did he do that? Right? There was a lot about all of a sudden the camera didn't work in there. These guards on this high-profile prisoner were asleep or not around. What about investigating these guards? Finding out the finances of them and their families and extended families since that event. What have their communications been monitored to find out if they were in communication? How'd that camera not work? And by the way, Epstein was worth many billions of dollars. What led to him flying back to the United States, facing a lifetime prison sentence? When you've got that kind of money, you could fly anywhere in the world and set yourself up with in non-extradition countries, hire top security people, and live a life. There's all kinds of things. And looking at a report that the Ray FBI put together about the results of their investigation at that jailhouse is useless. You got to do a new investigation. A new one. And if he did it himself, which is possible, there were others involved to set the stage to allow him to do it. So that's where it goes into, no, this was a plot, even if he did it himself, right? What a bunch of nonsense. And I ask myself the same question. Is he scared, him and Bongino, or are they posers? Imposters. Meaning, do they know how to do the, I hope that they're, as crazy as, I hope they're not fake posers. But it's got to be one or the other. You know, I mean, this is nonsense. And why do that interview? I mean, I'll tell you, I've been talking about it for 2 weeks. That Bartiromo interview was the most devastating interview I have ever seen a Republican give that was not involved in a scandal. The interview itself created a scandal. So why do another interview saying basically the same thing you said in the disastrous interview? Makes no sense. You know what else makes no sense? And I am serious as a heart attack about this, and that's living your life in pain. That's right. You know, if you're suffering with pain, go see Dr. Appleton. It's a free consultation. And talk to him about his laser-away pain treatment. There's no shots, no drugs, no surgery, no downtime. It's 100% painless. You don't even feel it when it's happening. And, oh yeah, the best part, it works. He's rid me of pain 7 times. And I've met so many of our listeners in the going on 3 years that Dr. Appleton has been with us that have gotten their lives back. Pain is not just a part of growing old. You can do something about it. And also, appointments are not necessary and walk-ins are welcome, even on Saturdays with Dr. Appleton. Works on every type of pain I've ever heard of. Arthritis, bursitis, work and sports injuries, strains and sprains, post-surgical swelling, knee conditions, tinnitus, sciatica, fibromyalgia, plantar fasciitis, acute and chronic pain, rotary tears, herniated discs, and the list goes on. If you have x-rays or scans, bring them with you. Dr. Appleton will gladly look them over for you. Also, Dr. Appleton performs all the laser treatments himself. Here's his number. Give him a call and say bye-bye to your pain. 954-973-0710. Right now, I'm putting my weight on my right leg, which is the one I had all that suffering of the knee pain from, and I couldn't put weight on it. I'm pain-free. And I have been it'll be 3 years in August in my knee after over 20 years of suffering, thanks to Dr. Appleton and his laser away pain treatment. 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. And online, AppletonChiro.com. Call us on hold, stand by. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show. We'll be back after our top of the hour break.
ZFS 104.3 HD3
Oh, what is Nelly Ohr's husband's name? I forgot. Bruce. It wasn't Ohr. Didn't he have a different last name? No, it was Bruce Ohr. Nelly and Bruce Ohr. Okay. You never know with these liberals. They have different last names. Yeah, Bruce Ohr.
It's the Steve Kane Show with Brian.
All right, one last thing, and then I'll go to the phone. So hold on, guys. Hour number 2's begun. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. Okay, so I was talking about the Kash Patel interview last night. There's another story, and I have a pretty good memory about things, and this is a blast from the past. Nelly and Bruce Ohr are back in the news. But there's something missing from all the stories about it, which I'll tell you in a moment. This is from the New York Post I'm reading from. Nelly Ohr, Justice Department official's wife, perjured herself with a false Trump-Russia testimony to Congress, bombshell FBI records show. Okay, now that was back in 2019-ish. Okay, when she testified. I don't remember exactly when she testified, but it was 2019-ish. And if you remember in the disastrous Bartiromo interview with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, Kash Patel said that the statute of limitations has expired on a lot of things. Not everything has a statute of limitations. One of them is treason, and I don't know what the statute of limitations are on espionage. What is the statute of limitation on espionage? Is there one? Does anyone know? because I remember something clear as a bell about Nelly Ohr. I have not gone back to research this. I remember this, and if somebody wants to go back and look it up and research it and has some more information, Nelly Ohr had something. Let me read, which I'll tell you in a minute. Let me read through this story in the New York Post about her. The wife of former Justice Department, the wife of a former Justice Department official, gave false testimony to Congress about her involvement in drafting and disseminating the since debunked dossier about Donald Trump's collusion with Russia in 2016, according to a bombshell trove of internal FBI records released Wednesday by Chuck Grassley. She worked for Fusion GPS. During that time, and again, this was during Trump's first term, so it's been a while, and I don't have all the dates memorized, but this had to be around 2018 or 2019 when this came out. Bruce Ohr, his office was down the hall from like the Attorney General, so he was a top guy, a senior guy at the Justice Department. He's an Asian American. Did he get one of those visas from China like they're talking about revoking these days? I don't know. But she, do you remember what she had, what they found out she had at her house with Bruce Ohr that she used on a regular basis? Does anyone remember? She had a communications device at her home that she lived at with her husband, Bruce Ohr. Does anyone remember? She had a shortwave radio at home that was in use. It was in use. Do you know who uses shortwave radios in the 21st century? You know who? Spies use them. And the reason spies, foreign spies, the reason they use shortwave radios is because they don't monitor that stuff anymore. Back during the Cold War, the government used shortwave, they monitored shortwave radio communications. So they would use codes like this one, Johnny's got a long mustache. Remember that code? Anybody know what that code was from? Johnny's got a long mustache. They would use codes or try to scramble things. But the governments don't monitor shortwave radio transmissions anymore. And because ham radios are out, everybody does everything electronically. You're in Washington, D.C., and you're communicating on a shortwave radio? Who are you communicating with? The Chinese embassy? Your husband looks Asian. The Russian embassy? Oh no, she's just a ham radio operator. She's working with Fusion GPS and she has a shortwave radio. So the statute of limitations may be expired on giving false testimony in a congressional hearing, but if she's doing espionage or committing treason, their statute of limitations is not expired. So why hasn't Bongino and Kash Patel brought Nelly and Bruce Ohr in handcuffs and have them in an interrogation room about the shortwave radio and find out what's going on with that? What the heck? And I read all the stories that I could find about Nelly Ohr yesterday. None of them mentioned the shortwave radio, including the New York Post story that I just read the beginning of. And maybe people have forgotten about it, but I remember because that was nuts. That's the preferred safe communication for espionage now. All right. Our number is 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Conservative Doug.
Oh, you know what I almost said before I took this call? Because there's other calls on hold. You know what I almost said? I said I almost said this on the air, and I said, nah, I'm not. But I almost said, you know, I really haven't been taking calls today. I took a couple, they sucked. And so I haven't really been taking calls too much. And I got other callers on hold, and I said, I hope that the first call isn't conservative Doug. Because you call it the same time. It's not that you're a bad guy, but you call it the same. I've talked to you about this before. When you call it the same time every day, it's chronic. It's, you know what I mean? Now the other people on hold, I don't know who they are. They may suck and have nothing to say, but you gotta spread your calls around. You can't call at the same time every day. But I take a call at random. There's other callers on hold, and boom, it's you. Always bet on Doug. Anyway, what do you got, Doug? Now that
Well, the first thing is, you know, you mentioned how they come up with the fake news comes up with these dumb things like trying to put a name on President Trump, you know, calling him a taco, whatever, you know, ridiculous. You know, they've also, there's something that affects you. They're also now coming up with that, because of President Trump removing a lot of federal workers, that there's nobody inspecting cruise ships anymore. And
why are we talking about? I was just getting ready to talk about our coming up cruise. It's not open phones. It's not open phones. By the way, the crime is not on our cruise line. It's on other cruises. I know. I just want to bring. I appreciate that. Should I include this? Should I include this in the? You know, later today, I've got to record a new spot for our MAGA cruise in March. And if you notice, I include calls from listeners often in our commercials, right? Maybe I should include yours, telling people it's dangerous to take cruises. Oh my goodness, it's just ridiculous. Screenless and but it does prove to you the calls are screenless, right? And we're live, but maybe Doug was being passive-aggressive because I said that thing about I hope, so he's tried to... He may not even be aware that he's being passive-aggressive. Oh, my goodness. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Oh, my goodness.
Renee from Harlem.
Oh, hey, Renee from Harlem.
Yeah, so let's see. We got Lion Brian the Bimbo. We got Stupid Steve and Richie the Racist. Who I left out?
Well, wait a minute. Okay? Oh, so you're trying to give us nicknames? Okay, you called me a Brian the Bimbo? That's a feminine thing. I'm a bimbo. What is that? What do you mean? What do I do that's bimbo-like?
Oh God. Oh, where do I start?
How about one? Give me one example. You called me a bimbo. I've never heard a man referred to as a bimbo. So I don't even know what that means, but give, okay, I'm just buying you time to think of something.
I can think to myself, thank you very much. You don't at all. So
okay, so I'm not a bimbo. Okay, you want to withdraw that name. I'm not a bimbo. Oh my good. Who calls a man a bimbo? Are you straight or gay? Are you gay or straight?
Listen,
okay. Because I've just never heard a man referred to another man as a bimbo before.
Then I call you a cabron, but I don't know. You don't speak any other language than English. So.
That's correct. Yes, American Standard English. Yes. You speak other languages?
What?
Huh?
Yeah, okay.
Is that all you got? Is that all you got?
Well, we got Maria the Mammy and Richie the Racist and Stupid Steve, and Lion Brian the Bimbo. Well, Bimbo, yeah. Bimbo, it doesn't really work. I had to think of something with a B.
Okay, well, you said lion. Okay, let's go with that. What's the most recent lie that I've told on the air? Because you only hear me on the air. You call me a liar. What's the most recent lie that I've told?
Let's sum it up. Your whole program is based on your opposition to President Obama. Your whole program wouldn't exist if it wasn't for President.
Then how did this program exist decades before anyone heard of Barack Obama?
It's President Barack Obama.
So give me an example. You called me Lion Brian. Give me an example, the most recent example you can think of me lying on the air to earn such a nickname?
Well, you lied about who won the election.
No, I never even, in fact, I didn't even have that conversation. I know I never even talked about that. But that, even if I did, excuse me, even if I did, that was 5 years ago. So do you have something like more recent than 5 years ago that you know? This is why, remember I told you, for nicknames to work, there has to be truth to it.
They work. They work because they make sense.
Well, you're not making any. All right, appreciate the call. All right, if you're on hold, stand by. The calls really suck today. I got to tell you, the calls really suck. Low quality calls today. But I'll go back to the phones after the break. Hopefully we can raise the bar a little bit. If you're on hold, stand by. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show. I want to talk about Coastal Weight Loss Secret. And, I'm wearing a shirt today that I have, if you're watching me online, you may have never seen this shirt before. This shirt is years old. I'd forgotten how many years old it is. But I was talking to my wife last night, and I said, I need to go out and buy some new shirts. And because I've lost all this weight, and so many of my shirts aren't fitting me anymore. And she said, "You've got more clothes than I've got. You've got more shirts than anybody I've ever known." And we go through my closet. There's this whole section. I've got this two-sided closet. There's a whole side of my closet that are clothes. I'd forgotten. I don't go through the closets, but of shirts that I haven't worn in years, mainly because they don't fit me. And this shirt I'm wearing now is a Tommy Hilfiger shirt. It's a button-up shirt. And I have it tucked in. The last time I wore this shirt, the last several times I've worn it, I didn't have it tucked in because my belly, was, and it was tight. And when I saw this one, I said, okay, but I'm not sure because the last time I wore it, it was annoying to wear because the collar was rubbing on my neck and on my chin. And I put the shirt on. It fits perfectly, and the collar isn't rubbing on my chin or neck because my chin and neck are smaller than they were the last time I wore the shirt, thanks to Coastal Weight Loss Secret. And the shirt's not tight anymore. It fits like it's supposed to fit. I mean, this is amazing. And I'll tell you, when I bought this shirt, it was too small when I bought it. So I've only worn it like a couple times. It was too small when I bought it. And it fits great. And that's courtesy of Coastal Weight Loss Secret. So listen, men and women. I know men and women in this audience have both gone to Coastal Weight Loss Secret. You can lose weight just like I've done. It's easy. I'm eating foods I would normally eat. I'm not doing any exercise at all. Zero. I've done zero exercise. I am eating foods I would normally eat. In fact, today, I have to stop by Friendly Tire later this morning and meet up with Mike from Friendly Tire. And there's a restaurant that I'm going to get takeout at down the street called Culver's. You guys know Culver's? All right. I'm eating at Culver's and I'm losing all this weight. All right. Isn't that something? Yeah, I know. And it works. And you can see it if you watch me online. Give Coastal Weight Loss Secret a call. When you call, make sure you tell them you heard about them on the True Oldies channel. 561-247-6300. 561-247-6300. And online, coastalweightlossecret.com. We'll be right back.
The Steve Kane Show live on air now. 888-GO-KANE-1. This is the Steve Kane Show with Brian Craig.
Hey, it's Scott on the radio.
See what I mean? Like the collar was like touching my neck and my chin, and it was so annoying. And I was like, why did they make sure? And I didn't realize because the shirt was too small. It didn't fit me.
We're seniors with no pension and collect Social Security. All our investments were in stocks and IRAs until we heard about Jupiter Joe speaking of having your money work for you. So we got in touch with him, and he went above and beyond trying to locate all our diversifications. He answered all our questions clearly and returned every phone call. He recommended an annuity that enabled us to get a safe monthly income for life. So I just want to tell everyone, if you're in need of additional income, especially with the high cost of everything these days, please call Joe Thomas. It's no cost to you. He is so professional, knowledgeable, trustworthy, and you can put total confidence in him. My husband and I can't say enough good things about Jupiter Joe and his staff.
I want to thank you for your kind words for Jupiter Joe Thomas. If you want to call Joe Thomas, I'm going to give you his number. It's a no-charge consultation, which you can take advantage of no matter where you're located. 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999. And online at jupiterjoe.com.
Do you suffer from neuropathy? I did, until I went to Lighthouse Medical Center in Pompano. Numbness, pain, burning, tingling in my hands and feet, muscle weakness, loss of balance, muscle twitching have all but disappeared. Say goodbye to your neuropathy symptoms. Call Lighthouse Medical Center for a free consultation. 754-222-6642. Tell them Steve Kane sent you.
Brian Craig here. When it comes time to get my blood work done, I don't have time to spend hours in the doctor's office or waiting hours in one of those big labs. That's why I go to Any Lab Test Now of Boca and Any Lab Test Now of Coral Springs for all of my lab work. Their techs are highly skilled and professional, and their prices are guaranteed to be the lowest on lab work you'll find anywhere. Appointments aren't necessary. Doctor's orders and prescriptions, they're not needed either. I'm in and out in 15 minutes or less. I get the results the next day in my email box, and they also send it to my doctor. There's lots of Any Lab Test Nows around, but these are the only two advertising on our radio station. So don't use the rest. Only go to Any Lab Test Now of Boca and Any Lab Test Now of Coral Springs. Any Lab Test Now of Boca is in the Sandalwood Plaza. That's where the Western Beef is, between Pamela Park Road and Hillsborough Boulevard on the east side of State Road 7, 441. Any Lab Test Now of
If
Coral
you're new to the
Springs
program,
is
make sure you
southeast
subscribe.
Bramblewood by the Coral Square Mall. Call Any Lab Test Now of Boca at 561-237-5009. Any Lab Test Now of Coral Springs number is 954-906-5983. And don't forget to mention that you heard about them on the radio.
Now, back to the Steve Kane Show with Brian Craig. Listen in the Palm Beaches on 95.9 FM, the Treasure Coast on 106.9 FM, hear us in Boca on 95.3 FM, Fort Lauderdale on 96.9 FM, and anywhere in the world at True Oldies FLA.
Alrighty, we're back. I'm Brian, Steve Kane Show. We're going to go back to the phones and hopefully, I think I brought up some great topics, had incredible, insightful, unique analysis on all of these stories in the news today, breaking them down in detail, and then I go to the phones and look what I've been getting. I mean, Steve has this phrase he uses: you can't play handball off a wet mattress. I don't know. We'll try. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, hello.
Yes. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Jim in northern Michigan.
All right, Jim. What's on your mind?
You got a pretty good run going with Bongino passion and all that, latching on his coattails. You got a few more days, like you're in the same caliber as him, but I'm giving him a chance because I've been a listener for him for the last 10 years.
Okay, now I want to slow down. Hold on. Oh, no. Hold on, Michigan. I want to slow down about this Bongino Kash Patel thing. I am fans and supporters of both of them. Why do you think I'm talking about Kash Patel today?
Every day you take a shot at.
No. Why do you think I'm talking about Kash Patel today?
For some reason, you're not a sophisticated legal person where you think that they're going to try.
See, this is why they're doing interviews. This is why I host a show and you call shows. You just don't understand. No,
Dan Bongino and Kash Patel to show up with the video from the jail of the guard just looking the other direction.
No, I want them to arrest people that need to be arrested. But the reason since you can't figure it out, you can't say you don't have, you're not man enough to say you don't know something, right? So you got some insecurity issues. You can't say I don't know. Now, well, then I'm going to be very happy and praise them and say, wow, I was wrong, and I'm glad they're doing this, okay? Like, the reason, excuse me, I asked you a question that you can't answer, so I'm going to answer my own question so we can talk about it. I'm not just randomly bashing Kash Patel today, okay? He gave an interview to Brett Baer last night on Fox, and I'm giving analysis on what he said, okay?
We watch it and we're waiting patiently because we want these put.
Okay, yeah. Now I got a question for you. Okay. Now I got a excuse me. I got a question for you. And why did you try to block your number when you called? Not very many people do that, but you tried to do that.
Because I wanted to get into the effeminate thing. People are referred to as effeminate.
Nobody referred to me as effeminate, but if you want to do that, go ahead.
Yeah, the bimbo thing. Yeah, the effeminate thing is, if I was ever in a shootout in a situation with someone, I'd rather have Joyce Kaufman than me because I know she's loaded, ready to...
Really? You know, Joyce Kaufman, I'll tell you a thing about Joyce Kaufman, okay? And you say she's loaded and ready to go. No, my life is worth. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you a Joyce Kaufman story about defending herself. No, slow down. I'm going to tell you a Joyce Kaufman story of her. No, you don't know this one. Well, what story am I going to tell about Joyce?
Why don't we talk about Brian?
Oh, there we go. Then he wants to start doing that. I'm gonna tell you a Joyce Kaufman. See, he doesn't want me to tell the story. I'm going to tell you about Joyce Kaufman. And Al Knight, our weekend guy, can vouch for me on this. He'll remember. Okay, Al Knight, our weekend guy. This was about, I don't know how many years ago. It was a long time ago because we all worked together. Al Knight did overnights on our radio station, which you probably remember because you sound like an old-time listener, right? Okay. No. See, one doesn't want to talk about it. Al Knight did overnights. He did overnights 3 to 6 a.m., and Joyce did mornings from 6 till 9 a.m., okay? I didn't hang up on you. I'm speaking. And Joyce called Al Knight during, she had broken down on I-95 in Atlantic Boulevard on the northbound ramp, and she got robbed, and she had her gun, right? And the guy wanted her chain. And what did she do with her gun? Did she defend herself? Not only did she give up her chain, she offered to give him money. The chain's important to me. I have this money. Let me give you this money and don't take my chain. Al Knight left the radio station live on the air. He was there by himself, had no board out, picked up his pistol, and went to Joyce. And the guy wasn't there. So she didn't defend anything with her gun. Anyway, it's not a deflection. You brought up Joyce. You said, if I'm in a gunfight, I want to be with Joyce. I want to be with Joyce. She not only let herself get robbed, she offered the guy money.
And I defend myself.
Yeah, well, who's interested in you?
Well, I got
Yeah. Well, listening to the calls today, I don't know if I have much to live for, listening to the quality of the calls, but you've had a grudge against me for years.
Gino kick right now. You're not giving them time, but you're going to have another. You got to run. You got a few more days until the bombshell.
And then I said, every time I've talked.
And lawsuits that they got against President Trump, 200, 300.
Yeah.
Guess how we.
All right. Appreciate the call. 'Cause now he's getting ready to go somewhere to force me to hang up on him, but I got to hang up anyway because it's time for a break. You know that this guy's got references that are like 30 years old. That caller. This guy hasn't liked me for a long time. Oh my goodness. Does anybody remember that hold-up story? I bet Al Knight remembers it. He may not want to get involved in it. But, yeah, Al Knight, he does weekends here on True Oldies. She called him. He was on the air, and he carries. He left the radio station. I guess I don't know what happened. He put on a song or something. I don't know what he did. We didn't play music. He took his gun. I don't remember what it was. It was a semi-auto. We were on the radio station. We were on Oakland Park Boulevard. And I came in the morning because I remember that. I remember live when it happened. It happened before I got there. He left the studio with his gun, left the radio station with no one there, and went to Joyce Kaufman's rescue. And what a nice guy. Now, that's who I want to be with. When my life's in danger, I want to be with Al Knight. That's a pretty cool thing, isn't it? But, you know. Oh, my goodness. But that guy wants to be with Joyce Kaufman, who offers to give people that are sticking you up money. Take my money. No, that's not good. All right, we'll be right back.
It's the Steve Kane Show with Brian Craig.
It's crazy.
Reminding you that your favorite oldies are back on the air right after 10 a.m. this morning on the True Oldies channel.
Now, here's the True Oldies weather forecast.
This Thursday morning and throughout the day, a slight chance of thunderstorms and then a chance of thunderstorms in the evening with a high of 84 degrees.
Now, guys, I want to tell you, and I know some of you have taken advantage of this. My wife, Kathy, has an Etsy shop, and there it is on the screen. There's a link in the description to my wife's Etsy shop, Ocean Breeze Art Studio, and it's all original artwork. She has a whole bunch of new items in there that were not there last time I showed this site. There's a link in the description. These are all original designs that my wife has created. Pretty cool stuff, huh? Okay. Oh, that was funny. I couldn't believe he had I can't remember what kind of gun he had, but it was semi-auto. I didn't even know he carried a gun out until then. That was pretty badass, I thought, when he did that. It was on the air. It was live on the air and doing a talk show like this, and he left with his gun to go save her. That was pretty badass.
Straight to just that?
Yeah, he just left. Boom.
Damn.
That's pretty
Trust Al
bad.
Knight
Yeah, I
with that,
know. I know. So this is my wife's Etsy shop, guys. You can see it right there. There's a link in the description. And those of you that have purchased things from her Etsy shop, thank you so much. And she's created all these designs herself, all original.
Hey, my True Oldies listeners, John Tesh here with some intelligence for your retirement this time. When you're looking for a retirement advisor, you know trust and experience are two big qualities to look for. And as it turns out...
Now we've elevated the call quality a little bit. I like that. That guy was a good caller.
Looking to retire, I want you to give local expert Joe Thomas a call. Here's the number, 561-743-0999. Or, even simpler, you can go to JupiterJoe.com. Mention my name, John Tesh. You'll receive a free copy of Joe's book, Retirement Know-It-All. Great book. Call 561-743-0999. Or remember, go to JupiterJoe.com. That's JupiterJoe.com.
You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Linda Wayne, I just received my 7th and 8th set of Mike Lindell sheets. This time we got flannel ones, which we had never had. I got one for my husband for Christmas. He loves it. Oh my God. And especially with the cold days and nights you've been having the last few months in Florida. I got 2 more. I send them to my friends for Christmas now, and they just love them. Absolutely love them.
Yeah, I have the flannels too. You're like Goldilocks. They keep you the same temperature all night long.
Yes. So, perfect. But the guy just has a great product.
The thing with Mike Lindell sheets, all of them, the fitted sheet at the bottom
fits perfectly on the mattress. Every other sheet, you can't get the four corners on, and it's almost impossible. Even after having them for years and washing them, I don't know how many times, they still fit perfectly.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
You're probably going to be on the next My Pillow commercial, just so you know, okay? Because okay, just to let you know. You heard Lynn from Boynton. She loves her My Pillow sheets. Order yours right now at a huge discount. Use our promo code KANE, K-A-N-E, at checkout at mypillow.com.
All right. All right, we're back. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. Now we've elevated the quality of the calls a little bit. It wasn't that guy was a high quality call. It's just I was able to take that sad, pathetic man who's a fan of Joyce Kaufman. Oh my goodness. That's a small fan club. And turn it into something interesting. All right, let's go back to the phones. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Jeff from Alabama.
Yes, Jeff.
How's it going? I just want to say, you do realize that Dr. Zuckerman...
Okay, there we go. See what I mean? And that was not an Alabama accent. You know what we're doing now? You see what's going on? You see what's going on? You know, at the top of the show, let me go back to where this all began. This is really amazing. If you're on hold, stand by. I got to pull this up. Let's see here. Okay. When I got to the radio station really early today, and I, you know, every day before the show, about an hour before the show or so, I decide what I'm going to lead with on the show. I go through the news, I do my show prep, and I was like, okay, this is going to be my lead thing that I start with today. And I got to the radio station like 30 minutes or so before the show today, which is really early for me. And I started, I got everything set up, and I started a YouTube live stream here in the radio studio about 20 or 30 minutes before the show. And one of the liberals in the chat room brought up something, and I was like, oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. I'd forgotten about that. I saw this yesterday. I wanted to bring that up, and I probably would have forgotten if you hadn't mentioned it. And then I opened the show talking about it, and it's this taco thing that they're trying to get off the ground, okay? And the liberals, if you've noticed, these callers have been weaponized today. That caller, the Kaufman lover, even conservative Doug, all right? You know, he's getting a little upset there. And then the callers in the first hour were just useless. They thought, the liberals, and I'm not calling Doug a liberal, by the way. I like Doug's calls. I do like conservative. Steve does not like Doug's calls. I like conservative Doug's calls. I just don't like him being the first caller in the 7 o'clock hour every day. He's got to spread it out. Call in the 8 o'clock hour. Call in the 6 o'clock hour. Or the end of the 7 o'clock hour. Anyway, they thought they had something with this taco thing. And when I just totally obliterated it, that set them off. So if you're on hold, hang in there. Let me recap it a little. Are you familiar with the taco thing? I heard this yesterday, and I didn't know what it was. I'd not heard it before. And I understand it originated from Lawrence O'Donnell on MSNBC. I'm not sure that he started it, but I've been told he has. I've not confirmed that. Judge Janine was sworn in the Oval Office yesterday. It was pretty cool. She was sworn in by Pam Bondi, and then President Trump turned it into a press conference. And it was a very good press conference. A lot of big stuff came up. And then this taco thing came up. I'd never heard it. It wasn't even Tuesday, right? Yesterday was Wednesday. President Trump had never heard of it. And the left are trying to get this nickname going for Trump. So this is the exchange. Let me play it, the taco exchange. The Oval Office, Judge Janine standing behind him. Okay, now I don't know if you can hear her, so I'll tell you what she said, and then I'll rewind it, and you can hear what the president says, his response. She says, Wall Street analysts are calling you the taco trade or whatever. Trump always chickens out. They're trying to get this acronym going, right? So here we go.
I chicken out? Oh, and then I chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I said down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said you have to open up your whole country, and because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till July. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want. And we have an end date of July 9th. You call that chickening out? Because we have $14 trillion now invested, committed to investing when Biden...
Okay, so it goes on and on. So they thought they had this thing. In fact, it's a trend on X. Taco. Trump always chickens out. And I'm not going to go through everything I talked about, but I am going to play one thing. First off, Trump is the nicknamer, right? I talk about Pocahontas, and all that kind of stuff. Gavin Newsome. He's good at giving nicknames. And the reason the nicknames stick is because they are appropriate descriptors for the people. Sloppy Steve Bannon, right? Because he never brushes his hair or shaves. Right? Exactly. And I remember when I met Trump that one time, and I was going to be up close to him to talk to him, I got a haircut and I shaved twice that day because I didn't want to get a Trump nickname. Not that I would be honored with a Trump nickname, but I didn't want to get a Trump nickname. Okay. Because I don't shave a lot and I go a long time without haircuts, and I was thinking I don't want to be sloppy Brian Craig or something, like sloppy Steve Bannon. The nicknames that he gives stick because they're true. Steve Bannon is a slob. He doesn't brush his hair, he never shaves, and he dresses like a hobo. He's worth many millions of dollars. He's like a Howard Hughes type, right? Pencil neck, shift, right? He does have a pencil neck. New scum is scum. Pocahontas is perfect because she was pretending to be an Indian and committed fraud at the university to get that professorship, okay? The nicknames stick because there's truth to them. Okay? Calling Trump a chicken right out of Back to the Future with Marty McFly and his dad, right? What's the matter, Marty? Are you a chicken? Right? It's stupid. He's obviously the opposite of that. The man got shot and stood up and said, fight, 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 and went out and kicked all your butts, and he's president again. And after you tried to shoot him again. But, if I got shot in the ear, I wouldn't have got up and said, fight, fight, fight. I would have been like, and walked into the emergency room with blood all over his face. In my living room, I've got one I just put up yesterday. In my living room, I have pictures of two people. One of them is President Trump when he got up and said, fight, fight, fight. And you know what's right next to that? I put up a picture of our new Pope, our American Pope yesterday, right next to it. But calling him a chicken when he got shot and got up, and then he went back to the spot where he got shot and did another rally there. How can you call a guy a chicken who does that? But yesterday, see, this is why these callers are triggered today. They thought they had something. But on top of all that, okay, they picked a bad day to try to start this nickname because this Israeli hostage that was held by Hamas gave an interview yesterday. In this interview, at the same time they were trying to get this stupid chicken thing going, this interview from Israel dropped. This is one of the Israeli hostages. He's doing an interview. I think it's an Israeli interview. And he's talking about the Hamas hostage takers that were holding him in Trump. Listen.
Yes, you got me out. You got the hostages out. Before, we felt like nothing is happening, And I remember for me, ever since he came into the road, they were very scared of him. Yeah, they wanted
Who?
terrorists.
We're afraid of Trump.
Yeah, they wanted Kamala to be chosen. To be
You
elected.
talked politics about it?
Yeah. They wanted Kamala to be elected. But as soon as Donald Trump was elected, they understood that he wants to bring the hostages back home.
Yeah, they were afraid of Trump. Hamas is scared of Trump. He gets shot and gets up. Give me my shoes. Let me get up and finish the speech. But give me my shoe first. But he's a chicken. So the liberals in the audience, they thought they had something today. And when I have put it in proper perspective, they're like, oh, what do we got? I mean, you know. Now, have you not gotten your free doorbell camera offer from Sloman Chet with the installation of your Sloman Shield? Oh, man, I love this thing. My wife and I, it's almost like a game to us. Because we answer the door for no one. And you shouldn't either if you don't know who's there. You know? Just because some guy has a vest on that's yellow doesn't mean it's safe to open your... that's how home invasions happen. They do. And when we get deliveries at the house, DoorDash, whatever, Instacart, we always tell them to leave it at the door. We get the notification on the doorbell camera. We see them. Because, you don't want them to see inside your house. Some of these people are casing your house. But sometimes... My wife and I, remember I told you I had this one guy that was knocking the other day? This guy came to my house 7 times. He came back even yesterday, knocking on the door. And it says AT&T on his vest that he's wearing. You know how I know it says AT&T? Because the camera's so good, I can see it. It says AT&T. But get your free doorbell camera with the installation of your Sloman Shield. You'll love it. And Slomans are also going to give you a free customized home security system and professional installation when you use their low-cost central station monitoring. You get an LED touchscreen, a motion detector, 10 contacts, a lifetime warranty, and a backup battery. Plus, you'll receive a free doorbell camera with the installation of your Sloman's Shield. Give them a call, 833-283-5050. 833-283-5050. That's 833-283-5050. And you can tell by the calls why I have something like this. But get that free doorbell camera with the installation of your Sloman Shield. All right, it's time to check in with Attorney Barry Siegel from the Siegel Law Group. Attorney Barry Siegel, good morning.
Good morning, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Today I wanted to talk about something I've been seeing. It's almost become like a financial epidemic where I'm seeing a lot of people who are not in the financial position they thought they would be in. Hello?
Yep, I got you.
Okay, I thought I lost you. People are not in the same financial situation that they thought they'd be in their retirement and senior years. And so we're seeing a lot of people who thought they were going to have financial security, and now they're in a position where they're not as well off and they don't have that future that they thought they were going to have. And not for all of them, but for many of them, the reason why is the cost of long-term care. They did not have a plan to deal with it, and they haven't taken any action in advance to make sure they could qualify to see if they have to be able to get government benefits. So for those folks who don't have long-term care insurance, for those who may have long-term care insurance, but you're concerned that it may run out, may not have enough, and for those of you who don't have an endless pot of money to self-insure and pay for those costs on your own and without having to worry about running out of money, you need to talk to us because we can talk to you before it's too late to develop a plan, maybe take some action to set things up so that you'll be able to qualify, or your spouse or loved one will be able to qualify to get government benefits to pay a significant portion of the cost of that care, so you don't have to spend down your assets during your lifetime, and you don't have to become one of those stories of these families that end up having to change their lifestyle drastically and adjust to a different reality in their later years.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about this before, and I learned about this from you. And long ago, these long-term care policies would cover you for life, but those policies are extremely rare now, right? Most people that have these long-term care policies that they purchased have an expiration on them, and I bet you a lot of people don't know that have the policies.
To see these lifetime policies anymore.
Yeah.
Long-term care insurance companies, when they realized what that was going to cost them, they
yeah. That's exactly right. But with the Medicaid planning, that's not an issue. All right. Now listen, give the Siegel Law Group a call. Now remember, it's a no-charge consultation with the Siegel Law Group if you mention you heard Attorney Barry Siegel on the program. 855-FLA-3782. 855-FLA-3782. And online, SiegelLawGroup.com. All right, Attorney Barry Siegel will finish out the week tomorrow. All right, take care. All right, let's go back to the phones. The phones have been really sketch today. I mean, these phone calls today are just, I don't know what's going on here. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Yes. Once, twice. All right. See what I mean? See what I mean? The quality of calls. I don't care. We'll keep doing it. There's no such things as bad callers. They're all great. Okay. A couple of things I want to mention, and then, in the next hour, can we raise the quality of the calls just a little bit? I mean, just a little. I mean, the best call we had today was the Kaufman lover. Our number is 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call. And by the way, that number, they're trying to get an acronym going, right? This stupid thing with the calling Trump a chicken. Our 888-465-2631 number, it's actually 888-GO-CANE-1. I don't know why we don't say that. We went out of our way to get that number. 888-GO-CANE-1. See, we know how to do acronyms here, not these idiots on the left. Couple of things I want to touch on before we get back to the news stories. Also, in that press conference, I'm not going to play the clip, but President Trump dropped something that I don't think many people knew because it hadn't been in the news. Do you know that the new Air Force One from Qatar is in the United States and is currently undergoing the renovations to bring it up to military standards? The president said that yesterday. And the press, I don't think they knew, because I think if they would have known, they would have shown it wherever it's at, and they haven't. But President Trump, they tried this thing like it's a gift to him, and he said, he set the record straight again, not that the media will stop reporting the false story, but he said it's too big. I guess it'd be too expensive to operate for even a billionaire. And what I'm looking, and they asked, well, how much is it going to cost to renovate it? He says, I don't know, but whatever it is, it'll be less than a new one. It's true. One of the talking points they have is he should have an American plane. It is an American plane. It's a Boeing. It's a made in America plane, the new Air Force One. So it is an American plane. It's Boeing. And Boeing was never going to give President Trump this new they have no intention on finishing the Air Force One to give it. They don't want him to have it. Even though he got them the biggest deal they ever made from Qatar with that purchase when he was over there, they're never going to deliver that plane to him. Now, they may now because they're a little embarrassed. But when the new Air Force One is done, I'm really hoping that when they unveil it, the old Air Force One is there next to it so we can get perspective on the size. You know what I mean? Because I saw fly in once or twice the Air Force cargo jet in the Palm Beach airport. It was flying in from over the Everglades in the Palm Beach airport, and President Trump's first term that has like the Beast in it and all the cars. That's the big, and it was low because it was coming in for a landing, and I was on the turnpike. That is the biggest aircraft I've ever seen in my life. I don't know how it flies. And I think that the size of this new Air Force One, the way President Trump was talking yesterday, is going to overwhelm us. And to have the two of them together will put it in perspective how big it is. But I'm guessing it's as big as one of those big cargo planes is what I'm thinking. All right, I don't know if we should do this. We'll try. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian. This is Jessica. I'm calling from West Palm Beach.
Hey, Jessica.
See that airplane all the time, every weekend when President's in town.
It's big. The cargo plane that brings all the vehicles, it's huge.
Yes, it is huge. And sometimes I stop and I take pictures. I love President Trump. Listen, I used to be a Democrat a long time ago, and when I saw when the party was going, I'm like, that's it, this is it. I'm no longer, I mean, I had to abandon the party. The party no longer represents anybody, just you. How did it go in your cruise in Puerto Plata? You know that I am Dominican American.
Oh, yes.
To hear your perspective on Puerto Plata on your cruise.
Well, where we went, when we went to Puerto Plata, we took a bus and we went directly to a beach where we went on a private chartered boat to go snorkeling. However, the area between the port and the resort area we went, I was expecting. Yeah, I don't want you to be offended or anything else, but I was expecting the Dominican Republic to be a lot nicer than it is, because Haiti is such a dump, right? It's an anarchy over there, and I've heard people say, because it's the same island, right? Why is Haiti such a dump when the Dominican is so nice? It's very dangerous in the Dominican Republic. In fact, I remember somebody on our bus had to pee, and the tour guide said, "No, we can't stop here. It's not safe. You got to hold it till we get to the resort." So it is not. Yeah, I mean, what I wouldn't walk the streets of Puerto Plata during the day.
Puerto Plata, there's a lot of Haitians in Puerto Plata and the eastern side of the island, and you know that the gangs of Haitian gang are threatening the government of the Dominican Republic to supposedly come in and invade the R. But I believe that they're already there. I believe that because of the high crimes that are happening in Puerto Plata and Punta Cana, which is also
and they're building a lot of like expensive housing for rich people in Puerto Plata, but it's cheap by, you can buy a mansion for $80,000 right down the street from the beach there. But what's it going to cost you with the armed security with machine guns you have to protect you? I don't understand. I don't understand why. Yeah. But this is what I don't understand. Why, they're in the Americas too, just like us. Why is it so nice and beautiful and safe in America? But you go to Latin America, you go to Haiti, you go to Dominican, and it's so dangerous. Why are these places third world? Why are they not first world like we are?
the government. The United States is a country of rule of law. Even people in government in the United States, politicians that commit a crime, they are processed and they're brought to justice. In Latin America, if you're a politician and you belong to the government, you can commit any corruption and no one will bring you to justice.
There's only, now Dominican Republic is not Latin America, it's in the Caribbean, but there's only one Latin American place that's safe in first world. Do you know what it is? One place in all of Latin America that is safe in first world.
I believe it's Uruguay.
Uruguay? No. Puerto Rico, because it's part of the U.S. Everywhere.
Not safe. The crime is very high in Puerto Rico, higher than the Dominican.
No. In the Dominican Republic, when we were a lot of it doesn't get reported. When when that person wanted to go use the ladies' room and they said it's too dangerous in the daytime, they were telling us how a guy down the street was just murdered for a gold chain. A lot of the crimes don't get reported, and I
agree. But in Latin America, every country is like that.
Well, that's why we can't. Well, El Salvador is pretty good these days, but that's why we can't let these people come to this country, 20 million or more, because the culture. the culture of Latin America is a culture of corruption. And
With you, and I agree with the order on the immigration laws that President Trump is implementing. I believe that everyone that is illegal in the United States should be deported back home so they can fight for their country.
Yeah.
For example, including Dominicans that are in the United States illegal should be back home so they can fight for stabilizing the country.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate the call. All right. Take care. Yeah. You know, but we had a good time there, but we were in safe resort areas. Okay. You would not be wanting to go through the regular areas of the, of Puerto Plata. That's why, you know, whenever you go on a cruise like we do, we always do tour groups no matter where we go through the cruise line. Because when we did our first cruise, we didn't do that. And my daughter and I got robbed in Mexico by the guys that rented us a scooter. I had to buy a scooter in Cozumel. Or they were going to call the Mexican police on me. Okay, so we do all of our events like through the cruise line and everything, so they're safe and everything. You can't venture out on your own in any foreign country. All right, listen, we're going to take our break for the top of the hour. You're listening to the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. I'm Brian Craig. Our number is toll-free 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. We'll be right back.
WSFS 104.3 HD3 Miramar, WIRK 103.1 HD3 Indiantown, and Hurry Broward on 96.9 FM, Boca Raton on 95.3 FM, West Palm Beach on 95.9 FM, and in Martin County on 106.9 FM. Programming paid for by Vic Canales Media Group. Your home for the Steve Kane Show. Now, here's the True Oldies weather forecast.
This Thursday morning and throughout the day, a slight chance of thunderstorms and then a chance of thunderstorms in the evening with a high of 83 degrees, low 80 degrees. Thunderstorms. Friday morning and throughout the day, a slight chance of thunderstorms and showers are likely in the evening with a high of 86 throughout the day. Friday night is going to be a low of 79 degrees.
And now, a True Oldies traffic check. Brought to you by the Palm Beach Kennel Club.
Heavy delays continue on the turnpike, northbound and southbound from Lake Worth Road to Boynton Beach Boulevard. 3 separate accidents causing a big backup. Emergency vehicles on the scene of crash, military trail at Coconut Lake. Spot something on the roads, call the traffic tip line. Down to 50 keyword westbound traffic on Rogers.
Traffic, a service of the Palm Beach Kennel Club. BBKC is your ultimate destination for poker excitement. Check out May High Hands every 15 minutes, every day from 9 a.m. to midnight, a $15,000 cash giveaway, and the $100,000 Progressive Poker High Hand promotion. Plus, day and evening tournaments, mega bad beat jackpots, and table games like Ultimate Texas Hold'em and 3-card poker with just a $5 minimum. For more information, go to pbkclub.com.
We're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Lynn from Boynton, I just received my 7th and 8th set of Mike Lindell sheets. This time we got flannel ones, which we had never had. I got one for my husband for Christmas. He loves it. Oh my God. And especially with the cold days and nights we've been having the last few months in Florida, I got 2 more. I send them to my friends for Christmas now, and they just love them. Absolutely love them.
Yeah, I have the flannels too. You're like Goldilocks. They keep you the same temperature all night long.
Yes. So, perfect. But the guy just has a great product.
The thing with Mike Lindell sheets, all of them, the fitted sheet at the bottom fits perfectly on the mattress. Every other sheet, you can't get the 4 corners on. And it's almost impossible. Even after having them for years and washing them, I don't know how many times, they still fit perfectly.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
You're probably going to be on the next My Pillow commercial, just so you know, okay?
Okay.
Okay, just to let you know. You heard Lynn from Boynton. She loves her My Pillow sheets. Order yours right now at a huge discount. Use our promo code KANE, K-A-N-E, at checkout at mypillow.com.
Do you have questions about your retirement? Hi, it's Jenny Thomas, co-host of the Jupiter Joe Money Show with my sister Dana and my dad, Jupiter Joe Thomas. Tune in every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 6 p.m. and Saturday mornings at 7:30 and 10 a.m. to the Jupiter Joe Money Show. Listen for key strategies to maximize your money and guaranteed income for life. Right here on the True Oldies channel.
When you need glam work, don't wait waste hours and hours waiting at the doctor's office or one of those big labs. Go to any lab test now of Boca and any lab test now of Coral Springs. Their prices are guaranteed to be the lowest you'll find anywhere. No appointment, doctor's order, or prescription is needed, and you're in and out in 15 minutes or less. They offer every lab and blood work your doctor can order. They even have drug tests.
Hey, Mike, which of those are for the 8 o'clock hour? I can't hear it.
There's lots of any lab test nows around, but these are the only two advertising on our radio station. So don't use the rest. Only go to any lab test now of Boca and any lab test now of Coral Springs.
Which of those spots are for the 8 o'clock hour? Okay.
Friendly Tire. I've been in business 30 years at the same location and offering great deals on new and used tires. I have many suppliers. Whatever car or truck you have, I can get you incredible deals on any tire. I also do tire repairs at very low prices. Give me a call. My number is 954-977-9445. I will give you a price over the phone on new and used tires. Again, my number is 954-977-9445. Thank you.
On the air since 1977, it's the Steve Kane Show.
Alrighty, we're back. I'm Brian, Steve Kane Show. Third hour has begun. A couple things I want to mention here, and I have one more clip I did not play of Kash Patel with Bret Baier. I love Kash Patel and Bongino. I want them to be very successful and put these people behind bars. But all I keep hearing are promises and excuses. And I want to play, let me cue this up. This one really aggravates me. It really does. Well, let me just play it, then we'll talk about it. Again, this is Kash Patel from the Bret Baier interview last night.
She wants to come after me. No problem. I've been living rent-free in that guy's head for years, and that's just a bonus. Do you know how many copycats we have to investigate as a result of that beachside venture from the former director? Zora, do you know how many agents I've had to take offline from chasing down child sex predators, fentanyl traffickers, terrorists? Because everywhere across this country, people are popping up on social media and think that a threat to the life of the President of the United States is a joke, and they can do it because he did it. That's what I'm having to deal with every single day.
Okay. This is insane to me. He says they have all these FBI resources they're pulling off of all these terrible cases with copycats because they think they can do what he did. He just said, let me rewind it. If you're on hold, stand by. Let me rewind it.
People are popping up on social media and think that a threat to the life of the President of the United States is a joke, and they can do it because he did it.
Well, if it's not okay for these other people to do it, why is it okay for Comey to do it? Right? You know, they think they can do it because he did it? Well, what, they're not special people? He's a special protected class of the permanent Washington class? If it's wrong for other people to do it, where you're sending the feds, why is he not picked up by the Fed? He was interviewed by the Secret Service, not the FBI. What do you mean? They think they can do it because he did it? Well, if he can do it, why can't they do it? This is why you got to arrest an animal like that, to send a message that this is not allowed, what Comey did. See what I'm talking about? The frustration? You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Jeff from Maine, Brian.
Hey, Jeff. How you doing?
The mixed signals that Kash is giving is what's aggravating. Don't you agree? It's
yeah.
To what you're saying, it's black and white. What he did was, I believe, treason, threatening the president.
You can't do that. There's and the freedom of speech. One of the other things there are certain limitations on freedom of speech. That's one of them, and another one is you can't incite violence. And Kash Patel is telling us that he incited all kinds of people all over the country who think they can do it because he did it. Well, if they can't do it, why can Comey do it? It's either wrong for everyone or not. I don't understand Kash Patel. I don't.
How high guy up. Do you believe that Comey is in the deep state? Is that part of the equation?
Yeah.
Doing
I think Comey is in the small group of people that are involved with the lawfare and since day one. Remember, he's the one that took the fake Russian dossier to President-elect Trump at Trump Tower. Okay, so yeah.
Hillary Clinton paid for it, and that it was a bunch of BS.
Yeah. So no, I think he's still involved. And the fact that
Back to 2015, that literally, doesn't it, Brian?
Yeah, it does. And what Kash Patel said there to Bret Baier, and I'll play after we're done talking. I'm going to play the rest because I want to see if Bret Baier asked him the follow up, because I did not listen. I listened to it past this earlier, but I didn't pay attention past that, because when I heard him say that, I was like outraged. They think they can do it because he did it. Well, he's not a special person. It's equal justice under the law in America. And the follow-up question, and I don't know if Bret Baier is going to ask, is why is it okay for Comey to do it but not other people? Right? That's the follow-up. Yeah.
And can I talk about something you said about Tucker? Tucker got the tapes from Fox and found something that was so damning about the J6 planned fake insurrection. Fox News has those tapes. Where are the tapes, Brian?
They're probably destroyed. They probably destroyed them. Yeah.
Fox did that. They're destroying evidence.
And he probably has some type of legal agreement where he's not allowed to talk about what they found, or he would have.
I didn't think of that. But Tucker was fired because he could have proved that J6 was a fake.
Well, he did on the first night, and that scared them. And if you remember, the rest of the week he didn't have anything new other than that tape on the first night, and so I knew something was up, because on those other nights he was trying to act like he was dealing with it, but he was really just killing time getting through the shows. They clamped down on him and didn't let him share anything else. Yeah.
Tomorrow, would you check into the auto pen scenario? They said that Pocahontas was involved in that. How many people, they knew that Biden was not capable of being president when he got elected, and that all the people that were signing stuff for him, Biden had no clue. That is a very...
The problem, let me tell you, from a legal perspective, what they did was high treason and all kinds of things. But like I got a list here, actually. There's an article in the Gateway Pundit, and these are some of the crimes that forgery of United States documents, impersonation of a federal officer, false statements, conspiracy to defraud the United States, obstruction of justice, wire and mail fraud, and others. But here's the thing with that. That's a hard thing to prove. How can you prove Biden didn't know?
Can't they prove that he was not? They said he was not capable of standing trial because of his.
Yeah, but how can you? Let me give you an example with the pardon of any of these pardons. How can you prove that he didn't know that they were pardoning these people? Yeah, you understand what I mean? I don't think that's something you can prove. Yeah, yeah.
But you know what, Brian? We have shows like you and people that love America and are going to stand for the truth. And I'm telling you right now, we're going to see Trump come through with something. I still believe.
Well, with the auto pen, see, they're bringing some of these people in to testify. Okay, so and they're bringing in top people like Nelly Ohr, and Nelly Ohr, she's the Maoist, right? She was praising Mao. She's the Oh, no, I said Nelly Ohr. No. I meant, I'm sorry. I was talking about I meant to say Anita Dunn. Anita Dunn is one of the ones that they're bringing in the Congress. They're bringing in the chief of staff. They're bringing in Biden's doctor. They're bringing in White House counsel, and there's another aide who was a one-time attorney of Obama who was working at the White House. Okay, they're bringing these people in. But there's two things about it. One, are they going to... I saw last night on TV, who's the Republican Congress... Comer, right? He's all talking all butch. He's always talking butch, and then nothing ever happens. You know, and when they bring in Anita Dunn and Klain and all these... and the Autopen Presidential Committee, okay? Are they going to question them live on television, or are they going to do one of those closed-door hearings that we don't get to see? Right? You know how they do that? They should be live on TV like Oliver North and Iran-Contra. Just like the Democrats. None of this, oh, well, you know, classified information may be discussed. Bull. Do it live on TV. You know, and what they... And what they do is they have these hearings. See, this is why you guys should listen to my podcast. I talked about this in detail in my podcast last night. You know, they do these hearings behind closed doors, and then what they see on TV is a redo of what they did behind closed doors. It's fake. So Comer, stop talking butch like he was with the laptop. Wasn't Comer the one that had the bank accounts with Biden transferring the $10 million in Cyprus and all that? What happened to that, Comer? So, you know, nothing off camera. It needs to be live on TV for the American people to see. And Anita Dunn, when she worked, she's the one that was praising Mao's Little Red Book when she worked for Obama in his first term. And she has this tick called lizard tongue. I don't know if she's gotten over it, but when she talks, she always sticks her tongue out like every other word to lick her upper lip when she talks. I don't know if she still has that tick, but she used to have it. And she used to give speeches all the time, and she was always, you know, like, it's called lizard tongue. So, but none of the, yeah, just like Trey Gowdy, another fake when he was in Congress. Oh, we're going to get to this, you know, and then nothing happens. These hearings need to be live on television. No behind closed doors garbage. Nothing classified is going to get revealed. All right, Jeff, I appreciate the call. If you're on hold, stand by. We'll be right back.
Don't sit on the sidelines. Get in on the action. Call the Steve Kane Show live on air now. 888-GO-KANE-1. This is the Steve Kane Show with Brian Craig.
Hey, it's Scott on the radio reminding you that your favorite oldies are back on the air right after 10 a.m. this morning on the True Oldies channel.
Do you suffer from neuropathy? I did, until I went to Lighthouse Medical Center in Pamela. Numbness, pain, burning, tingling in my hands and feet, muscle weakness, loss of balance, muscle torsion have all but disappeared. Say goodbye to your neuropathy symptoms. Call Lighthouse Medical Center for a free consultation. 754-222-6642.
My name is Dr. Philip Appleton. I'm a chiropractic physician. Over the years, I've treated thousands and thousands of patients from bursitis, tendonitis, sciatica, stenosis, neuropathy, tears, post-surgery, pre-surgery, herniated disc, gout, bone on bone. If you can name the pain, most likely I've treated it over the years. Most of my practice is laser with robotic lasers. The robot which rotates.
You guys know what I mean about these behind closed doors hearings? Bull crap.
I'm here 6 days a week. I personally do all the treatment. You can bring your MRIs, you can bring your x-rays, you can bring CAT scans, whatever you have, bring for me to look at. I would do that free of charge.
Call Dr. Appleton right now for that free consultation. 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. And online, AppletonCairo.com. If you're a homeowner or with a homeowners association and your roof is old or compromised, you need to call Tom Laporta at Laporta Roofing. Laporta Roofing has been in the roofing and construction business since 1984, with thousands of roof installations and thousands of satisfied customers. Did you know that in the state of Florida, you can open a roofing company and borrow someone else's license? Tom Laporta is the holder of his roofing and general contractor's licenses, not like the other companies that borrow other people's licenses. So be sure who you're dealing with. Tom Laporta and his team are honest, knowledgeable, and reliable, and he'll never sell you a roof you don't need. Laporta Roofing carries carries all insurance, including workers' compensation on all of its employees. Not just a waiver like other contractors. LaPorta Roofing can handle any type of roofing job too. Residential roofing, HOAs, condominiums, and churches. If it's roofing, LaPorta Roofing can do it. So call Tom LaPorta on his cell phone, 954-604-4602. Or connect online at LaPortaRoofing.com. That number again is 954-604-4602. LaPorta Roofing, the go-to roofing company you can trust. When it comes to dental workers, no one better than Dr. Godet Brighton Dental. But don't just take my word for it. This is Richie, the bus driver. He called in on the air to share his experience with Dr. Godet. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Richie, Dr. Godet. I go 139 miles to this guy. I had a broken tooth. He fixed it. It was supposed to be temporary. It lasted 2 years. He put dentures in my mouth that are a lot cheaper than anybody else. And he's excellent and no pain. I recommend this guy. To me, he's the best ever. So I want to get that out of the way.
Listen to Richie, the bus driver. Go see Dr. Godet Brighton Dental. 954-922-4633. 954-922-4633.
Now back to the Steve Kane Show with Brian Craig. Listen in the Palm Beaches on 95.9 FM. The Treasure Coast on 106.9 FM. Here is in Boca on 95.9 FM. Lauderdale on 36.9 FM. And anywhere in the world at TrueOldiesFLA.com.
All right, we're back. Let's go back to the phones. We've started to elevate the quality of the call. You know, sometimes when the calls are low quality, somebody comes across the show for the first time and they hear some of these callers. It's like embarrassing, right? You know, we need to have some high quality calls. Let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, this is Richie.
Hey, Richie.
Agree with you today, 180%. Let me say this to you, Brian. Would you have
That if you're being robbed, you want Al Knight to come to your rescue, not Joyce Kaufman? You missed that call? You missed that call?
I want to say this to you. Would you have, and this is going to let everyone know what's going on here. Would you have, are you friends with ultra liberals? Would you have them to your house?
Are you kidding me? Hell, I'm not friends with liberals.
Why? You know why? Because you have scruples, okay? You're not a phony, okay? You look at Congress, and you like the movies. You see these actors playing roles. Every time you see a hearing, they're acting, just like in a courtroom.
No, not always. Like if you go back to Oliver North and Iran-Contra, there was no closed door hearing with Oliver North. They came out there and they were talking about, and he was a lieutenant colonel in the United States Marine Corps, and they were comparing his who was that vile liberal Democrat Hawaiian senator? Inouye, you remember that jerk? Inouye, he was like, well, in the Nuremberg trials, he was calling Oliver North a Nazi. There was no behind closed doors. You know? Come on.
They were trying to get a record. I don't believe in this closed door crap. What I'm trying to say, well, you're right. When they have these hearings on TV, they're a big play act because these same senators that are yelling at each other on the other side of the aisle are out.
Well, there was this was crazy, okay? This was when Eric Holder was the Attorney General, okay? There was a congressional hearing, and the Tea Party just came in. And I don't remember this guy because he's not in Congress anymore. They got rid of him. I don't remember his name or where he was from, but he was a Tea Party guy in Congress. They got rid of him like Alan West, another one-termer. And this Tea Party Republican congressman was on the committee, and he was asking, I can't even remember what the questions were about, but he was asking real questions of Eric Holder. And I was watching it live on television. He was really going after Eric Holder. And Eric Holder said, listen here. And he put his finger up. Some of you will remember, if you remember the details of this, he says, you're new here. You don't know how things work around here. These hearings are not for you to go after people. They're just because to show the American people we do things. He said they were fake. Then there was another one. Remember that? Do you remember that? There was another one, and this one, I don't remember who it was exactly and which congressman it was. And this was either during Trump's first term or Obama's second, but I think it was Trump's first term. There was a federal agent, one of the leaders of one of the top federal agent guys was in a congressional hearing. One of the congressmen was asking him tough questions, and he says, "I might look into your phone to see who you're communicating with." Remember that? He threatened him on TV. You remember that? You know, and so a lot the AutoPen Presidential Committee, I would be shocked if they did that live on TV the first time and didn't do the closed doors the first time. I would be shocked.
May I take real quick, take you down the memory lane for everyone to know why I believe in Brian, what Brian
yes,
and Kash Patel. President Trump announces he's going to run for president again, the 47th president of the United States. The very next day, the Colorado state attorney, whatever she is, the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
When that totally failed, all these judges started going after him, taking him into court.
Yeah.
Every day I watch this poor man have to sit in there and get abused by these phonies, and then they try to take his business away.
Yeah.
Take his family away. They even try.
Oh, yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, this is too long already. There's 51 guys that signed off on that Hunter Biden thing. Don't tell me that's 51. Get after all of them. Running, they all got TV contracts. They're all on CNN and MSNBC. That's the.
You know, the thing. See, this is the thing. I just don't think that Kash Patel and Bongino are up to the job. I think that they talk a good game and are not like real. You know, listen, we like them both. Kash Patel seems like a very good attorney, but he's like an office guy. And Bongino seems to be the same way. You know?
Walked, and I think that when they put out any kind of a thing, nobody's cooperating with them at all. I think they're being stonewalled by the whole government. And that's the problem. They can't move fast because they're being stonewalled. It's easy.
Really? Why can't they go and investigate Judge Mershon in New York and his daughter with that $100 million? Why aren't they doing that?
Right away, that should be. He should have been called in already.
Yeah.
Called in. This is more than 6 months already. Just give me a break. This investigation.
Do you let me? You're a long time listener. Do you remember that time with Joyce getting robbed and Al Knight coming to her rescue? You don't remember that?
Oh, I don't.
I'm shocked. I don't know. That was. I was telling. Let me tell you. Al Knight is he's the weekend guy here on True Oldies. Joyce Kaufman called him during a break. He was live on the air. She said, I just got robbed. He grabbed his pistol, left the radio. There was nobody there, and went to her rescue. I've never seen. That's like he actually went to rescue a damsel in distress. Well, damsel, Joyce Kaufman. But he went to, I've never seen anything like that before. It was pretty cool. And I know Al Knight's not listening today because he would have texted me by now. We text a lot. He hasn't texted me today. I know he remembers that. But anyway. That is. Yes, it is. All right, Richie, I appreciate the call. Take care. You know, Richie didn't respond to one thing I said during that whole call. He just went on his own thing. Tomorrow's open phones, Richie. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Hey, what's up, Dean?
The beef I have starts back with the Durham report. I mean, they slow walked that thing for 3 years, and nothing happened.
They arrested one guy. That we never heard of, and I don't even remember exactly.
Big mouth. Oh, we got 130 LLCs in the going down, and we got this. And all of a sudden, well, it's a little too late to prosecute him.
Yeah, Comer's the one. Comer had the bank records of the $10 million deposit that Biden made in Cyprus, and he went that. Yeah, come on.
Jim George is as bad as him too. Oh, we got him, and then we're like, okay, when's it gonna happen? And then it never happens. I mean, I'm beginning to think that it's a rigged game and that the controls everybody.
Yeah. You know, listen, I remember back in the 90s, and I'm sure it's much higher now. In the House of Representatives, they're in a situation like a high-pressured salesperson because they're constantly up for re-election every 2 years. They never stop running. And back in the 90s, I saw an interview with a congressman. He was a member of the House. And this was in the 90s when Clinton was president. So I can only imagine what the number is now. He says, I have to raise $1 million a week to be able to run in 2 years. $1 million a week. That was in the 90s. I can only imagine what it is now. So these guys, they're all corrupt. Exactly. Exactly. Like my congressman, some Democrat jerk. I live in a very MAGA area. How's this Democrat getting elected and reelected all the time? Laura Loomer runs in the district she loses. Right? And,
If we can't get anything overturned and people prosecuted with Trump, we'll never get it done.
Well, this is what I think is in play here, okay? Now this is, maybe this is wishful thinking, but I think President Trump is as disappointed as we are in these guys, but, and Pam Bondi, I tell this to people all the time, Pam Bondi is so much better looking in person. I mean, she came in studio, okay? We had her in studio. I can't tell, Steve asked me not to tell the story, so I can't tell you the whole story. Steve could no, he's not, yeah, but I'll tell you this. Steve could not even hardly interview her. She's that good looking in person. Television does not do her justice. It makes her look ugly, and she looks good on TV. And I'm telling you, I tell this to people all the time. When you see Pam Bondi in person, she's 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 like a movie star in person. Television does something that makes, and she looks good on TV, but she looks a heck of a lot better. So Laura Loomer calls her Barbie, okay? And I'm starting to think that, I'm not accusing her of being like Kamala Harris, okay? Sleeping your way through stuff, okay? I'm not. But she is so good looking that her looks alone are overwhelming to men. I've seen the effect it had on Steve. I had a very embarrassing moment with her. Somebody booked her on the show without telling us when she was running for Attorney General the first time, and she wasn't well known then. And I'm in the studio, and this Baywatch babe walks in, and I didn't know who she says, "Oh, I'm Pam Bondi. I'm here to be on the show." And I said, "Who are you?" She said, "Pam Bondi." And I said, "Who are you?" And she showed me her identity, and then it was somebody. I don't want to say who. It was somebody that that's connected to Jeb that sent her into the studio and didn't tell us. And Steve couldn't even talk to her. And he's asked me not to share on the air the questions he asked her. Last time I brought this up, so I can't tell you what he asked her. But if you were listening, I'm not going to say. I'm not going to confirm nor deny. But if you were listening to that show, you remember it. You remember? Oh my goodness. And I ran into Pam Bondi at a Trump rally, and she was with Matt Gaetz, and all I could think of is, I hope she doesn't remember me. I hope she doesn't remember. But of course she did, because she wasn't famous yet, right? So the interview was a big deal to her. But anyway, back to this. I'm starting to think that Pam Bondi's gotten by on her beauty. Because she hasn't, I saw, it might have been Bannon said the other day, I think it was Steve Bannon said, Kash, Patel, Bongino, and Bondi are arresting the regular criminals, and that's great, but what about these lawfare people, right? They haven't done any of that. So,
I see Letitia James behind bars.
That's going to happen. She's going to prison for the mortgage fraud. But here's the thing. Let me have my thought. Here's my hope. And by the way, I did not originate this. I've heard other people talk about this. The crimes that we're talking about, in particular the auto pen, all these crimes were committed in Washington, which is under the jurisdiction of the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, Judge Jogn, who was just sworn in yesterday in the Oval Office. So I'm hoping, and again, other people have talked about this, that Judge Jogn will start bringing charges against these people that Kash and Pam Bondi aren't doing.
Yeah. Now, if they can prove that Biden was incompetent and had no control over the auto pen, wouldn't that make it?
How do you prove that? How do you prove it?
You can see he's got brain damage.
A president can authorize the use of the auto pen with a phone call. The president could be in Timbuktu and call up and say, "Hey, sign that airstrike with the auto pen." So how do you? Anyway, I got to run. I'm late. I'm late for the break, but appreciate the call from MAGA, Martin County. All right, we'll take our break for the bottom of the hour and be right back.
Great again. It's the Steve Kane Show with Brian Craig.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good. You have anything in particular to bring up today?
I was just going to talk about 401ks.
Okay.
I think people don't realize how challenging they are.
Okay.
Pam Bondi, I didn't know you interviewed her.
Oh yeah, I met her a couple times. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah, although that thing with Steve was pretty bad.
What happened?
I can't say because the cameras were
Oh.
on. He asked me not. It was so embarrassing. He didn't want me to say. We didn't know she was coming, and we didn't know who she was yet at that time because she wasn't famous at the time.
How long ago was this?
Well, it was when she ran for Attorney General the first time.
Oh.
And but I've met her since. We've had her on since. But the
20
first,
years ago, she must have been really gorgeous.
Oh my God! So the first time she comes in the studio, she says, "I'm here to be on the show today." And I said, "Well, who are you?" She says, "I'm Pam Bondi." And I said, "Well, who are you?"
Yeah,
Now
right.
look at her, you know.
Right.
But it was.
That's crazy.
It was so bad. I met her at this Trump rally, and that's what I told the caller, and all I was thinking was, I hope she doesn't remember me from that.
Did she remember?
Oh yeah.
That's hilarious.
Oh yeah.
That's hilarious.
Now back to the Steve Kane Show with Brian Craig.
All right, and we're back. Jupiter Joe Thomas is with, I was watching the local news, Joe, and I can't remember what station it was last night, and they said that it looks like Trump's presidential library is going to be in Jupiter.
Oh, is that so?
They have an address for it, and it's the same address as the golf course in Jupiter.
Really?
That was on the local news last night.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, I don't know. So
Interesting. It's not going to come out like Obama's thing, that $1 billion.
They still haven't finished it.
I know. I've seen the interviews. It was ridiculous. Yeah.
I know. I can't wait. But you were talking to me. You mentioned to me 401ks, and 401ks. So many people, they love their 401ks. Oh, my boss, he's so great. He does all these things. I don't think 401ks are all that. What do you think about them?
Yeah, look, they're a good savings vehicle, but the problem with them is if you leave your job, you don't know where it is. You can't control the risk levels. You can't control the fees. You can't do anything with it. And trying to get your money. Now, look, we transfer a lot of 401ks from 401ks to annuities to an IRA. And let me tell you something, it's getting very challenging out there because these companies want to keep your money there and they want to do everything to dissuade you from moving your money.
Well, what I learned from you, there's a lot of people talk about all these things that they don't tell you what the real deal is.
Right.
And if you think your employer is so generous with your 401k, it's really a side business that they've got. They make money off of you even after they fired you. If you have your 401k, the guy that fired you is making. How does that work?
Yeah, so it's called revenue sharing. And what happens is your employer, your boss, it could be a dentist, it could be a doctor, anybody, a small little firm, they're getting a piece of the action. So they split the fees generally 50-50, 60-40 with the management company who's managing your money. So let's say it's Fidelity, Empower, whoever it is. They're sending your boss, your employer, part of your fees. That's charged out of your account.
Oh, that's great.
Isn't that wonderful?
Isn't that great?
But what's worse? They don't disclose it. You have to call and say how much is it, and then they get all mad that you're asking how much your fees are.
So, okay, so this is like you're being. It's like you're being robbed. One of the biggest problems employers have is employee theft.
Right.
Right. But this is an instance where the employer, in my opinion, is a thief stealing from their employees and they don't even know it.
At least let your employees know that they're paying a fee and how much it is and that they're sharing in the revenue. This is kept quiet. By the way, they've been doing this for 30, 40 years. This just came out in the last probably 5 to 7 years. Yeah.
So how do the fees work that they get? Are they transactional or how does the fees that they get, how does that work?
So this is what's really nasty. The smaller your account, the bigger the fee.
Oh, that's great.
So if you have under 100,000, they're going to be charging you about 2% a year. If you have over $1 million, or $500,000, then they're going to charge you like 1.25%.
Oh, wait a minute. So they're charging a fee regardless if there's any transactions or
Oh,
anything?
yeah, it doesn't matter. No, it's an annual fee.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, but the problem is you don't see it. They don't show it to you. So this is why when I tell people to educate themselves about, products and what they have, 401ks, IRAs, whatever it is, it's important. Get a copy of my book. I mean, that's where my whole gig is to educate and inform people about what they're doing with their money. If I do that, I'm doing my job.
When we, before we first met, actually, they gave me a copy of your book, and I looked at it over the weekend, and it's a quick, short read. You give them out free. We haven't talked about your book in a while.
Right.
And a lot of the things that I talk to you about are things that I read in your book that I remember from your book. Your book, it's a quick read, and it's written in layman's language where you can understand it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, so tell us about your book, and then how people can get it.
So I wrote the book called Retirement Know-It-All, not because I'm a know-it-all with retirement, but everybody today with the advent of Google and their son-in-laws and daughter-in-laws and friends and relatives know more about retirement than the experts in many respects. And it's tongue-in-cheek. And that's how I wrote the book. Here's the deal. You get a copy for free.
Yeah.
Go to my website, jupiterjoe.com. My daughters will send you out a free copy. You want a PDF? We'll send you a PDF.
Yeah, no matter where you're located. And
Doesn't matter.
I'll tell you, listen, I tell you this all the time. I don't like risks, okay? I like things that are safe. I don't have to worry about. There's three things I like. I like gold, I like annuities, and I like real estate.
There you go.
Because and I know, a lot of you guys, hey, listen, I like the market, I like this, I like that. And I like things that are solid. And I don't know what the official definition is of an annuity, but the way I look at it, it's because I've talked to you about this a couple of times. A lot of people own condos that are like a second property that they rent out, or something. What's going on with condos in Florida is insane. You want to get out. To me, an annuity is like having a rental property.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Without the tenant,
Yeah.
and without all the the property taxes and the HOA, it's the same kind of thing. Because the reason you have a second property you're renting out is to get that revenue stream.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I mean, the thing is, look, you want to diversify your money, just like you said, gold. It's a great way to go. Now, look, I think everybody should have a percentage in a little bit of everything. You need your money in some things that can lose money and some things that cannot. That means you can have your money in your 401k, but realize the risk levels. That's the whole key.
Now back to the 401ks, and this is very, very, very important because I know sometimes people have multiple 401ks with multiple employers. You may not be able to track down your 401k, or maybe you don't want to call that human resources person that fired you or downsized you or something. I get it. But you can actually help people track down the 401k, get the money, and get it transferred with nothing, right?
It's hard to break up sometimes with your advisor, and we can do it. If you left your job, our motto is if you left your job, your money shouldn't be there. Why? Control and fees. You can control your risk level once you move your money. And you have access to it, Brian. If there's an emergency, how are you going to get... If you can't get your money from your 401k, how's your family going to get if something happens to you? Think about that.
That's right. And, another thing, and then one last thing I want to mention. I know a lot of seniors are always looking, believe me, I know, are looking for side gigs. An annuity is a side gig, right? Because you got that revenue stream.
Mailbox money.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed, just like Social Security.
Yeah, that's right. Well, listen, give Jupiter Joe a call. Again, you can get his book for free, The Retirement Know-It-All, or set up that free consultation. 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999. And if you missed the number, just go to his website, jupiterjoe.com. All right, Joe, we'll talk soon. Okay, getting back to what we've been talking about today, there's been a lot of things that we've discussed, and you're certainly welcome to call in about anything I brought up today. But here's the end of everything that's going on right now. The big beautiful bill is a done deal. There's a false there's two false narratives they're trying to start right now. Actually, there's going to be a third one later today, but I'll just talk about two. One is the big beautiful bill is filled with all these things. That's not true. In fact, Marjorie Taylor Greene talked about this yesterday and the day before. I think it's Monday, but if it's not Monday, it's next week. The Republicans in Congress are introducing a new bill to pass into law all the DOGE cuts. Okay? So that's coming. So don't let them tell you that that's being ignored. That's not true. The other thing that they're really trying to push hard is that Trump and Elon Musk have had a falling out. Before Elon Musk started working for Doge, he announced he was going to be leaving in May. Remember, before he even started working, he said he was going to be leaving in May. Where it's now May. But, you know, the thing with Doge is doing, see, this is what people don't understand about Doge. It's not just that they found out there was government waste, and they only found out 1/2 of 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 1% of what is being done out there. They didn't even find, you know. But what they did is they established with the American people what a con game the entire United States government is and how corrupt it really is. You know, people assume that congressmen, you know, we were talking about House members having to raise all this money to run all the time. People assume the government officials steal. And they even accept it. Okay, and the American people accept the idea that it's okay for our public officials to steal a little bit. I know that sounds crazy, doesn't it? But that's kind of how it is. But not on the level that we found out about from Doge. And that is something that is allowing such a revolutionary change in the expectation of the American people for the government. What I mean by that is one of the things with these tax cuts, we're getting the biggest tax cuts we've ever seen in this country in this bill, right? They're extending the Trump tax cuts, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and they couldn't get the no tax on Social Security through due to some technicality garbage, but they added another $4,500 a year deduction on your taxes for those of you that are Social Security recipients. This is the largest tax cut in history, and you don't really hear the Democrats opposing it, right? Because they can't, because of what Elon Musk exposed with Doge. So instead of all these people attacking Elon Musk, what Elon Musk really should be getting today is a thank you for what he's done. I haven't heard one Democrat use the oldest talking point during every tax cut I've ever heard in my life. Oh yeah, tax cuts are great. How are you going to pay for it? Remember I told you, they're not saying that anymore. All right, we are going to, it's gold and precious metals report time from the offices of William Youngerman Incorporated in Boca. We're going to check in with William Youngerman with the Morning Gold and Precious Metals Report. William Youngerman, how are the metals looking today?
Metals are looking up today. After being down yesterday, we are certainly riding a bull market, and it's certainly not easy to stay on a bull when it's a roaring market. But this market is continuing to give us these up and down days, but certainly finding great support for gold around $3,300 per ounce and silver around $33 per ounce. Yesterday we saw the dollar get a little stronger, and then gold trading down to $32.8640. That was down $13.60, but trading in a range of $32.75 on the low to $33.17 on the high. Silver closed out the day down 29 cents at $32.94. Platinum was unchanged at $1,079, and palladium was down $12 at $9.48. Overnight we see gold trading in a range of $32.45 all the way up to $33.13 on a weak dollar. Yesterday we had a strong dollar. Today we've got a much weaker dollar. The index being back under 100, and gold right now at $3,312. That's up $25.60. Silver up 41 cents at $33.35 the ounce. Platinum gaining $11 at $1,090. And palladium up $12 at $960. They're very stable.
Absolutely. And remember, William Youngerman opens up at 10 a.m. All the metals are available for immediate delivery. His address is 150 East Palmetto Park Road in Boca, on the first floor of the Bank of America building, just east of US 1 Federal Highway, on the south side of Palmetto Park Road. You can give him a call, toll-free, 800-327-5010, 800-327-5010. And online, WilliamYoungerman.com. All right, William Youngerman will finish out the week tomorrow.
Get free verbal appraisals on anything they want to bring in as far as collectibles, precious metals, jewelry, or watches, or anything collectibles free appraisals.
And on the jewelry, even if it's broken, out of date, and god awful ugly, it's money.
Yeah, some of these old pocket watches that don't run anymore and don't have any meaning to people, we found that some of them are worth thousands of dollars.
Wow.
Just in the gold. So, just sitting in your safety deposit box, you may have an opportunity to do that also.
All right, William, I'm going to take care. All right, we are back. Our number, 1-888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian. James from Boca.
Hey, James, what's up?
Not much, just complaining like everybody else in America, at least half. I believe everything that's going on, I don't know, it's so big, like you were just saying, Trump and everybody's doing the best they can, and everybody's complaining, but, to dig that deep, and I don't know if it'll ever get done.
Well, what I don't know, are you talking about with the Kash and Bongino?
In the eyes of Americans to the corruption of the government. It's just that, wow, no one ever knew, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and shutting down USAID, okay? I don't think people understand. I believe USAID is a CIA deep state front organization, and this is how they were funding everything around the world. Revolutions were funded through USAID. And shutting that down is, and the thing about Kash, Patel, and Bongino, guys, don't misunderstand me. I love these guys, but one thing I've learned in my life, you're right, things are big. You can't take on everything at once, so you focus in on one thing. And instead of doing interviews, they need to go out. We need a high profile arrest. And there's a lot of people to go out and arrest that have done a lot of crime. And all I keep hearing from Dan Bongino and Kash Patel is things are coming and statute of limitations have expired and we're sending paperwork to Congress. Sending things to Congress, you might as well throw it away if you're going to send it to Congress.
The statute of limitations, is that ran out on Maxine Waters and she...
Well, this is the thing. This is the thing. I don't agree. There's no statute of limitations on treason. If you were involved in wiretapping Trump Tower in 2015, you were committing treason. If you went in to the president-elect of the United States with a fake Russian dossier and tried to blackmail him with it, you were committing treason. There's no statute of limitations on treason.
What?
No, not on treason. No, it's like murder. And it's certainly not 5 years. Okay. Now there are a lot of crimes that have 5 years and things like that, but I almost feel like they're pushing things down the road to get more. The longer they wait, the more statute of limitations will have passed. You know what I mean? It's come on. All right, take care. Bongino was not hired, okay, to read reports written by the Chris Wray FBI. I'm sorry. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Getting wonderful physical therapy here in Delray Beach.
Oh, I was talking about you earlier, Al the John. Al the John, yes. I was talking about how you earned that name. Yeah. Let me tell you, Al, it doesn't matter if it's Thursday or Friday. Excuse me, it doesn't matter what day you call. It's never a good day for you to call. But what's on your mind today?
Telling me I was your best caller of the year. So
it must have been a bad. I can't imagine of the year.
I recall you saying that several times when I was living up in D.C. on a full.
You used to be an all right caller, but the last couple of years you're useless. I mean, you've got nothing to say. Like those calls. I don't know. Do you remember this, Mike? You were doing trade with like a restaurant to feed you. You would say, "I'm calling from such and such place," and they would give you breakfast. I mean, oh, please. Oh, give me a break. You did something with a mattress once. I remember.
Brooklyn Bagel.
There he is. That was Brooklyn Bagel. There he is again. Brooklyn Bagel. There you go. it's been a long, see, he did it. See, he did. It's been a long time since you've made a call that was interesting or worthy of airtime. But maybe you'll surprise me now. What did you call about today?
Let me ask you something. If you had family that came over that were legal residents and their kid was going to college and they paid their tuition, where does Trump get off saying a foreign student that's in this country legally should be denied going to...
Oh, you're talking about Harvard? Okay. Now you brought it. Okay, I heard. Harvard, by the way, this does not, because I'm responding does not mean this was a good call, but you're trying. Harvard is a foreign... no, that wasn't what I was saying. If you were not waiting to talk and listen, I said the first part of the first word. Harvard is a foreign spy school.
Oh.
Why do you think there's so many Asians at the Ivy Leagues? They're Chinese spies. You have a Harvard says how do we know that? How do we know that? How do we know that? Who's the president of China? I forgot his name.
Xi.
Yeah, of course you know his name. I'm not surprised. Why is his daughter goes to Harvard? What the hell's that about? You didn't know that? No, hold on. No. I know, no. The president of China's daughter is a student at Harvard. She's going to lose her visa. Should she lose that visa?
No.
Really? Why would you want that? What do you think she's doing there? Why do you think she's there?
Don't follow technology, okay? Because if you did, you know a lot of the...
I'll tell you why. Okay. Back in the day, and I don't have much time because I got to do a spot, okay? So, back in the Cold War, the Soviets used to send American spies that they trained in the Soviet Union, and they would train them and raise them as Americans. And they used to tell us that they had these spy schools in the Soviet Union that were like American towns, right? So they could learn how to be Americans. The Chinese don't have to do that. They send their future spies to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Columbia School of Journalism. They learn how to be Americans. They infiltrate our society. They become Americanized more than these illegals jumping the southern border. And then they get offered jobs at top companies. The president of China, his daughter is here, so she can learn what America's about, so she can go back and weaponize that information against us as one of the ruling elite of China. They should have their visas gone. It's crazy, Al. Hey, listen, I would thank you for your call, but if I did that, I would be lying. If you're on hold, stand by. I'll squeeze another call or two in. But first, I want to talk about Coastal Weight Loss Secret. Now, I mentioned this in the beginning of the show. I'm wearing a shirt that I bought years ago that I've not worn in years. And when this shirt fits me perfectly. And when I bought this shirt, it was too small for me, right? I didn't want to admit it. But when I wore this shirt last, the collar I could feel the collar on my chin and my neck. And it was tight in the stomach. And the couple of times I wore this shirt, and this is a nice shirt, Tommy Hilfiger shirt, nice shirt, I didn't even tuck it in. I had it tucked out because it was too small, because I was too big. My stomach was too big. It fits me perfectly. I have it tucked in, and I'm wearing a shirt that was always too small for me, but now it fits perfectly, and the collar's not touching my neck and chin like it was. I said, what's Tommy Hilfiger doing? This shirt's not cut right. No, it's just my neck and chin were too big for the size I bought. But I've lost all that weight now, thanks to Coastal Weight Loss Secret, and it's absolutely amazing. I look great. I feel great. And as I said, I am doing zero exercise other than running my mouth. That's all I do no exercise. I'm not taking any prescription medications, and I'm eating foods I would normally eat. Like today, I'm having lunch at Culver's in Margate, okay? So if you know Culver's, look it up, and you'll see. I'm eating food I would normally eat. Give Coastal Weight Loss Secret a call. When you call, make sure you tell them you heard about them on the True Oldies channel. 561-247-6300. 561-247-6300, and online, coastalweightlossecret.com. All right, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
JJ from Mass.
Hey, JJ.
With Bongino and Kash, I just look at I kind of look at Trump when Trump said, Zelensky started the war. To me, that was sort of like misinformation to gain an advantage, on the chessboard. And I look at Kash and Bongino. I don't like the things they said, but I have faith in them. I believe in them, and I think there could be there's a lot of things going on underneath that we just don't know about. In a new investigation, you have to assume that all the information that they have is tainted. So they have to do all new investigations.
Well, I didn't hear anything about new investigations. I hear them say, well, we read the reports from the Chris Wray FBI.
Information. That's what I'm trying
Okay, well, I hope you're right. Yeah. But then why did Kash do another interview after that Bartiromo interview was devastating? Is part of their psych ops to look like clowns?
They look like clowns. There's what people want to happen and what is going to happen in the reasonable amount of time. These guys have to do everything by the book. They can't count on the evidence, excuse me, they can't count on the evidence that they already have, right? I mean, you said so.
Yeah.
Said he read the file. Now, I think maybe the Epstein stuff, there's a lot of, Mossad, CIA stuff.
Maybe. Yeah.
For Trump to use in his negotiations. There's just so much that we don't know. And I love Trump, and I love...
Of course. Listen, I'm not critical of Trump, but I'm being critical of Bongino and Kash. But hey, I hope you're right, and I'm out of time for today. But thanks for the call, JJ. The rest of you on hold, stand by. Tomorrow's Friday, which means open phones, right? You can call in about any and everything on your mind on Friday's show. So if you're on hold, you'll be first in line at 6 a.m. on Open MAGA Mike Friday. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. My name is Brian Craig. We did resurrect the show from those really embarrassing calls we had in the beginning. Thanks so much. See you tomorrow, 6 a.m. Take care.
WSFS 104. WFLM 104.7 HD3 Palm Beach Shores and heard in Broward.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, all right? Take care.